All right.
All right, hi everybody. This is A7X Fan Ben with God Mason. This is episode 16 of the Pirate CSG podcast, and today we have the Mysterious Islands set review. Mysterious Islands was the seventh set release, came out in 2006, and we're going to talk about the set a little bit overall to get started. So I'll ask you, God Mason, what you thought of Mysterious Islands in general as a concept in the game.
I was really excited to see Mysterious Islands come out back when the game was in print because they used all this promotional artwork. They used, they're showing off submarines like those shown in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which I maintain is a really good movie, like still astonishingly good. And side note, if nobody knows, Jules Verne was basically a genius and predicted the operation of a nuclear submarine prior to 1900. Anyway, all that was really neat, but unfortunately the set didn't live up to the hype. They chose much more dull pack art than any of the posters would have suggested they'd use. And while I kind of liked the deck plate art, which was sort of this rusted metal hull, most of the game set was not actually all that great. There are some good crew, there are some good game pieces, but this is, I think, one of the two or three worst sets overall.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I was a bigger fan of the set back when I first acquired it because my collection was small, and like I think I said in the first episode, I got two 18-pack booster boxes of the set for like $27, including shipping from David Card World. But I liked it back then. But back then, I was more interested in quantity over quality in a way. Probably because I wasn't playing a lot, and since I wasn't playing a lot, I didn't really see the set for what it was, which is, like you said, it's a subpar set overall for gameplay.
No pun intended.
Yeah, yeah. And the Mysterious Islands, which we'll talk about soon, because they're the first things listed in the database on miniature trading. Thought they were kind of all over the place. Some of them are way too powerful, and other ones are about right and kind of add some cool flavor to the game. So the Mysterious Islands I'm kind of in between on, but if you use the overpowered ones, they can kind of ruin a game, to be honest, which I've experienced multiple times before. Overall, the theme is okay. I'll never be a huge fan of submarines and metal hulled ships in a Age of Sail game, but overall the set is still pretty okay theme wise. And like you said, there are a lot of mediocre game pieces. I would say this was kind of the first set of the subpar ones because Davy Jones' Curse has quite a bunch of good pieces and is generally a better set than this one. This is when the reverse power creep kind of went full throttle, basically, which is too bad.
Yeah, it only got worse with Frozen Island, or Frozen North, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not Frozen Islands. That's a set that doesn't exist. Yeah, we can. We can combine the longship and submarine keywords and make something that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Not that either. Anyway. Mysterious Islands as a whole, the concept of them I like, but I feel like a lot of them, as you said, aren't really all that intriguing, or they're just far too powerful to use.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be kind of equal chances of good effect, no effect, bad effect, but it's not quite that way when you actually start laying them out on the board.
Yeah, exactly. And there's ways to abuse them with like a bunch of small ships at the same island, and a lot of times the positive effect is more dramatically affecting the game than the negative effect usually. So
because they have to make it worthwhile to use. So
yeah, and my thoughts on submarines kind of meh. I don't really like seeing them, but I've kind of warmed up to them, and I do use them sometimes. I've used them kind of extensively in Battle Campaign Games 2 and 3. Right now, as the Americans in the CG3, I've launched, I think, 4 subs, the 2 American ones, and then also I got the Nautilus and the Mobilis for canceling. So I've used them a bunch, so they're not too bad, and we'll talk about them when we get to them. So any other thoughts on the set before we start the pieces?
No, I think I'm good to go.
Cool. Yeah, all right. Mysterious Island number 1. So basically the MIs have a bad effect on die rolls of 1 or 2. You have to roll when docking, not when exploring. And then 3, 4 is no effect for all of them. 5, 6 is the positive effect. So the first one says randomly move 2 treasure coins from this island to another wild island. And then the positive effect is when the ship explores the island, randomly move 2 treasure coins from every other wild island to this island, and then choose which to take. This is pretty much one of the overpowered ones, so we're starting off on one of the best, actually. That positive effect is huge because in a standard game with 4 coins per island, or even 3, one good die roll of this island basically makes this island like a paradise island full of gold, and takes a ton of treasure from all the other ones. And I've used this in large games too, where you can get the effect many times in a game, which makes it even more OP. So this one was not well thought out at all, to be honest.
Yeah, this one seems really powerful, and I mean, I think what they're trying to do is make something that kind of has an equal chance of being, good and bad and not too extreme, but unfortunately the implementation didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
Also, something interesting is how the bad effect takes place immediately when you dock. The good effect takes place the next turn when you explore.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Assuming you have no explorer, which is just kind of strange.
Yeah,
but,
that's silly. Yeah. I just thought of something with the bad effect. You could do, I'll preface this. Mysterious Island farming is like the kind of like the pirates' jargon for when you dock, like usually multiple ships in Mysterious Island, sometimes with rerollers or linked merc crew, and try to get the positive effect as often as possible. So you're like farming the island for the good effects. But here, if you were in a weird spot where this island was, under siege or something, you could try to farm the negative effect to send coins. You get to choose where you send the 2 coins on the bad effect, so you could send them closer to home. I just realized this could be a double positive, so I didn't think of that before.
Yeah, so in bigger games, that I think we're going to see Xerax use this one at some point.
Yeah. And I did use this in a Circle of Blood game with my friend at college, and the positive effect, it kind of made the game kind of weird, but it does make the island a magnet, which can provoke more combat and kind of make things dramatic. So it's not all bad, but it's not balanced at all, though.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Mysterious Island number 2, which is a little simpler. Bad effect: roll 3 die for every 4 to 6 result. Eliminate one of the ship's masts. Good effect: move an opposing ship using this ship's base move. I think this one's interesting, but the risk is way too high for it to really be abused.
Yeah, I agree. This one's super risky. It's a cornerstone of my my mind control fleet, which is pretty much my favorite gimmick strategy, where you use abilities in this Mysterious Island and another one to control the enemy fleet and move them around, and basically control 2 fleets at once, which is pretty crazy. It'd be frustrating to play against, but yeah, it's really risky, but the payoff is pretty big. So I'd say it's more balanced, but it's pretty extreme. So, but it is a fun one. So it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it just seems too risky for you to use unless you're planning to use that in particular.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, the best thing is maybe like a small, like a 1-master with helmsman oarsmen, so then you can redock when derelict, I guess. But anyway, the next one is number 3. Positive. The negative effect is the next time you give this ship a move action, the opponent to your left moves her. Positive is crew on the ship do not take up cargo space until after the ship's docked their home island. This one I haven't used very much. It's pretty lame. Both effects are hard to remember, so I don't really like things like that, because both of them are kind of like next turn type effects. So I don't like having to try to memorize these things in game. So I'm not a big fan of this one. It's not very powerful, which is okay.
Yeah, it just seems so middling. Odds are the positive effect is basically going to have no effect unless this is like the last full island in the game, and you can only chase it down with a ship that's got way too many crew on it. Anyway, just doesn't seem very good.
Yeah.
All right. On to number 4. So negative: roll 5d6 for every 4 to 6 result. Eliminate one of the ship's masts. And positive effect: when the ship explores this island, replace 1 treasure coin with a unique treasure from your collection. I mean, the last time we read an effect like this, we agreed it was a bit extreme. This is
even more so.
Yeah. Replace 1 treasure coin. What if we replaced? Well, I guess it'd be made worse if it replaced all of them, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's a weird one. I forget some of the rules implications of this one, because it does have to be, I guess, one of the coins on the island, but it doesn't really. It just says replace one treasure coin, which you could wrongly interpret it as like treasure coin on an enemy ship and dump like Runes of Death or something, but that'd be
Yeah,
unfair.
I think it was just poorly worded.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we talked about that in the Roadster actually, kind of extensively last year, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the negative effect is really rough, and then the positive is crazy. You can bring in Lost and things like that. I guess it should be treasures that can be loaded onto the ship, but even with that, you could get Nemo's plans, or you could get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
crazy stuff. So this one is pretty extreme and huge risk, huge reward. So it affects the game a little too much for my taste, though. So the
Yeah.
fifth one is a negative effect of next time you give the ship a move action, roll 1d6. On a result of 1 to 4, she can't move. And then the positive effect is the same as the first one. So when you explode the island, you can randomly move 2 treasure coins from every other wild island to this island. So this one,
Wait, from every other?
yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's why it's so ridiculous. So you could have 4 wild islands with 4 coins each, and then you get a 5 or 6 at this island once, and then all the others have 2, and then this one would have what, like 10? So 10
Yeah.
coins.
And
So
if you're
that's really
playing a
cool.
really big game,
Yeah, like I did. Yeah, my 2011 cumulative game had this problem. That's part of the reason the Spanish did so good early in that game. But yeah, this one, I don't know. This one strikes me as pretty similar to number one, so I don't have much else to say. The negative is arguably, I guess, a little bit more lenient, but that's not good because that just makes it even more unbalanced.
yeah, it's probably even more powerful. Mysterious Island's number 6. Negative is the next time you give the ship a move action, roll 1d6. On a result of 1 to 5, she can't move. Positive result is you can add an event from your collection to your fleet. I I don't even know how abusable this one is. What if you just? Yeah, actually, actually this one's highly abusable because the negative effect isn't that bad.
Yeah.
You just lose out on a turn, whereas the positive effect, you can bring false treasure into the game several times.
Yeah. Yeah, or Be Calmed or Hidden Cove. Yeah, start warping
Yeah,
all over the place and freeze your opponent's fleet. This is another good one that would be good
Yes.
with like 2 or 3 like one-masted ships.
Yeah.
Really cheap. Like a swarm fleet would do well with this one, but it's extremely overpowered. You could make a pretty good argument this is the worst one because this is the one. This allows you to bring extra points into the game, especially, which is a huge no-no in terms of balance of any game.
Yeah.
Mysterious Islands or otherwise. So, and yeah, False Treasure is 10 points. Becalmed is 4, but it's really worth probably 8 or more. So it's just really bad. So, oh well.
Yeah. I think it's kind of funny that there hadn't been any events put into the game since South China Seas. So 2 sets, and they're still kind of acknowledging them and not regretting their mistake.
Yeah, it's not a good thing at all.
Yeah.
Number 7, the bad effect is randomly move 1 treasure from this island to another wild island. So pretty mild. And then the good one is after exploring this island, place a treasure coin from your collection with value equal to or less than 1 you took on the island. So that's not really a good effect. I don't know. This one's really mild, actually. Unlike the other ones, it's like super boring.
Yeah.
Which is okay for balance. So it's actually less OP, is less game breaking. So I guess this one's more usable in a way. But it's really weird because there was a rules discussion about this one too. They're surprisingly dense when you get into the questions because I don't think it can be a UT. But technically, a UT with no value would have value less than or equal to. So it's silly.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, so it's like a less risky version of the one where you get to put something in from your collection. Yeah, I guess we should have that clarified with Wolf or something.
Yeah, I think he did. I just can't remember all the questions. So.
Yeah, we'll have to bother him again. All right, 8th island. Negative, this ship can't explore this island. She must leave and dock again to try. Positive is the next time you give the ship a move action, add L to her base move. I mean, I guess this one's a little bit more reasonable, but it's a little bit more inconvenient than it is convenient.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't seem like a good a good, risk benefit.
No, I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I've used this one a little bit, and this one, unlike most of the other ones, the negative outweighs the positive, so without a doubt for me. The next one, number 9, the good effect is randomly move 2 treasure coins from this island to another wild island. Once again, after this ship
That's the bad effect.
Yeah, bad effect, yeah. And then the good one
That was a good effect. How bad would the bad one be?
After this ship explores this island, swap any number of treasure coins taken with an equal number of treasure coins chosen randomly from all other wild islands. I added the all for emphasis. I can't remember using this much, but the good effect is pretty powerful. So I mean, it's still even the good effect when you use it, it's still risky. But I would say it's kind of an interesting one actually. I don't think I've used it much, so I'm kind of intrigued by this one.
Yeah, it just seems like that swapping and trading ability scaled up a bit, and that's not really all that good an ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it can be good with like negative UTs especially. So
that's fair, but what if you brought yourself a negative UT by doing this?
Yeah, you can do that too. Absolutely, it's still a gamble.
Yeah, I think this one is one I probably wouldn't use.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 10. Bad effect. The next time you give this ship a move action, roll 1d6. On a result of 1 to 5, she can't move again. Good effect. When the ship explores this island, replace 1 treasure coin with 1 of greater value from your collection. That's another interesting one, because could you, in theory, use the UT argument again?
Yeah, pretty much. I may have asked a question about this one too, but that's what I'm trying to look up while you're talking about some of the other ones. But it's I don't know, it's decent, but the risk is still pretty high here. So
yeah, I suppose you're right. It's not really one that I'll probably end up using.
Yeah. Number 11, the bad effect says the opponent to your left moves all of the ship's crew to any other wild island.
Ooh.
Wow. I don't know if I've used this one. And then the good effect is when the ship explores, randomly move 1 treasure coin from every other wild island to this island, and then choose which to take. So not as OP as moving 2, but still pretty powerful. I think the negative effect has a lot of potential here. If they wanted to pick up the crew and like sack them, or maybe use them on ships of the same nationality, if you were both had pirate fleets or something. So I kind of like this one. It's not as OP as the other that moved two from every other island to this one. So I think this one has potential, but I don't know. There's a chance I don't even own this one. I'm not sure yet. So I like this one actually.
I don't actually know what roster of Mysterious Islands I have. I should just rifle through my bag and see which ones I've got. Yeah, this one seems like a slightly more tame version, but it's still pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right. Island number 12. Bad effect. Move all treasure coins from this island to any other wild island. That's not so bad because, as you pointed out, that's kind of abusable. Good effect. When the ship explores this island, replace 1 treasure coin with a unique treasure from your collection. This is one of the most well-rounded ones here.
Yeah, well, yeah, it might be. I mean, it's balanced between the risk-benefit, but anything that yanks a UT into the game is going to be cause for havoc.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting, though. Yeah, you could lose all the coins, so that is a pretty bad one. So it's worth stating that re-rollers and things like that could really help when you're trying to go to MIs if you know they're going to be in the setup. So
yeah. There's a crew from Fire and Steel Coconut who is an explorer and a re-roller who is basically built to deal with Mysterious Islands.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. The next one is number 13. One of my favorites, similar to number 2. Bad effect is roll 4d6 for every 4 to 6 result, eliminate one of the ship's mass. Positive effect is move an opposing ship using her base move. So another mind control island. Pretty powerful, decent risk reward ratio. I think it's kind of balanced. It's similar. It's basically like 2, but use the opposing ship's base move. I like 2 better just because you have control over what you'd be moving them. So you would purposely send like the rover or something even faster, some cheap ship to farm the island with like SL speed or faster. This one, a lot of times I've tried to use this one, but then the enemy ship only has like L-based moves, so it's not quite as effective, but still a pretty cool one overall.
Yeah, that is. I mean, you do risk a lot of damage. I mean, I suppose something you could do is, if you use something like the rover, could you put either could you put an oarsman aboard and then just kind of negate the negative effect?
Yeah, essentially. I guess I probably should have said a different ship. Like a 3-point ship could have helmsman and oarsman, and then because then you'd be able to move away and move back. Because unless you have the schooner keyword or something, you wouldn't be able to move ass away, and you'd have to have 2 movement segments to come back. So the rover's just a cheap option with solid speed that could take advantage of the MI number 2 better. So
Mysterious Island number 14, bad effect. Roll 5d6 for every 4 to 6 result. Eliminate one of the ship's mass. Good result. You can add an event. We've already seen something like this, and I think we already agreed that that's a disaster.
Yeah, way too powerful.
Yep.
Number 15 is bad effect. The next time you give this ship a move action, she can move only S. And then the good effect is randomly move 1 treasure coin from this island to your home island. This one's pretty balanced. It's fine.
This makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's not too bad. It gets a little funky with you get the only 7 in play home that could win you the game. So I would say this would be better in like multiplayer games and games where you're not using the standard like more than half rule of getting 16 gold. But I think it's okay overall.
Yeah. By virtue of being kind of the most sane one, I think it's probably the best for normal play.
Yeah.
And then the last Mysterious Island, number 16, bad effect. The next time you give the ship a move action, the opponent to your left moves her. Good effect. After this ship explores this island, swap any number of treasure coins taken with an equal number of treasure coins chosen randomly from other wild islands. I spent all my time reading that and not really understanding it.
Yeah, we saw it earlier. It's like the super trading
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Meh.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of meh. I don't think we need to read the message in a bottles.
No, we don't need those. I don't even have those. I don't know. I don't remember getting any of those. I think they were probably rare, kind of like the ROTF stories or whatever. But
they weren't. There's one in every pack. Unlike unlike the Rise of the Fiends of Fine Steel, there's one in every pack.
That's weird. 'Cause I don't know. I guess it's been a while since I opened the packs, and I guess unfortunately back then I think I threw out some of the stuff I got. And I don't know. I just don't remember them. So maybe I
bet you I've got spares. I'm ashamed to say I might not have thrown out all the extras, so I may be able to send you spares if you want. Cool. They're definitely not rare. It's like well, I mean, I guess I'll bring up why they're in the packs. If you collected all 4 and you sent them in with receipts and all that, they sent you the message in a bottle pack.
Yeah, which is very good. So
which we'll get to later.
Yeah, and which would bring in a hefty profit if you got one back then and sold it nowadays. But
or if you got several back then.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because I think message in a bottle packs, I think I've seen them go for more than $60 these days. Yep. They're incredibly desirable.
Yeah, at least one of them went for, I think, 68. I'll try to check my spreadsheet in the meantime. But now we're on to the main set. Finally, after the MIs are done, there's 16 MIs, and now we're on to ship number 001, which is the Nautilus, essentially the flagship of the Mercenaries. Mm-hmm. It's got, it's a 3-masted or 3-segmented submarine, 16 points for cargo L move. All 3 cannons are 3S. Mercenary, submarine, 2 hits from the same shoot action are required to eliminate one of the ship's hull pieces, so via Corazato's ability on a submarine, which is pretty cool. So one of the best defensive ships in the game, because even if you cancel a submarine to the surface, it still takes 6 hits to wreck it. So this one's pretty good. It's a little bit underwhelming as an offensive unit, but with the crew you can put aboard, it does become pretty powerful. I do like Nemo on the ship just for flavor and because he links. I like using Ibrahim Ozat with Nemo. The problem is it's kind of tough to win a lot of boarding parties with a 3-masted sub. So I like to use them on 10 masters. I've got Nemo with Ozat. breastboarding on a 10 master, the Zanfu in CG3 right now. Other than that, the Nautilus is pretty good. I would recommend a shipwright because she won't be able to dock at her home island. To repair.
And a helmsman because she's slow.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, like Captain Helmsman, Shipwright Oarsman is like a basic setup you could try, but it's one of the best subs, but it's not an overwhelmingly good piece overall.
Yeah, I think it's the second best overall. We'll talk about the number one a bit later, but I mean, I'm bothered by the fact that Captain Nemo doesn't better fit this ship.
Yeah.
Because Captain Nemo's ability, which we'll talk about later, is based on winning boarding parties, and with a slow 3-masted ship, you're not going to be doing that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, it is not a great link, but
yeah. Although, if you can get interesting crew on board Nautilus, she becomes a really hard ship to kill.
Yeah.
And in some ways, possibly harder to kill than Ella Crozado, because Crozado can submerge.
Yeah, I like putting Chancellor Christian Fior on the Nautilus. I've done that in Vassal CG1 and now in CG3, so that's a classic combo I like to use a lot. Yep.
Yeah. We'll get on to Terror next, which is another, I guess, 3-segment submarine. It has the same cost, 16, 4 cargo space, L move, and it gets 3 L guns instead of 3S. It's linked to Count Gustav, and it has the fear keyword instead of Nautilus's durability. That makes it not as good because fear was always overpriced, and it's trading off one of the best abilities for one of the most overpriced abilities.
Yeah, exactly. This one still strikes me as a decent offensive unit, much more offensive than the Nautilus defense. The 3L cannons are solid. The link to Gustav, he has extra action ability, so it's a solid link. This is one of their best, pure gunship builds. But as submarines go, it's not exceptional. Most aren't, but it's solid as submarines go, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a better offensive piece, and Gustav is one of the better mercenary crew.
Yeah, exactly. And they needed him. They needed somebody like him. Yeah. Next one, I don't know how to pronounce that. Hephaestus.
Hephaestus, I think it is.
Yeah, that's how I say it. This one is another 3-segment submarine. With the mercenary keyword as well, of course. 14 points, 4 cargo, S move. Cannons are 2L, 2S, 2S, and this ship ignores the first hit she takes each turn as long as she has all of her hull pieces. Linked to air.
Fuchs.
Okay, Fuchs. Okay. And then this one is like their submarine dreadnought basically. So it's got slow speed, wicked good cannons, and a defensive ability. So it's probably their best pure gunship submarine, maybe even better than the Terror. She needs captain and helmsman without a doubt.
Maybe I like even Gustav, because she's so slow.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. This one I kind of like. It kind of fills a nice niche for them, but there's definitely better submarines out there. This is like a good, slow, accurate dreadnought sub.
Yeah, and honestly, I think there's only so much value in something that's slow and expensive, and when you get down to it, not really that durable. If you're going to be using mercenary submarines in a major offensive role, you almost need to have a shipwright built into them to make sure that they can continue to engage and capitalize on their greatest strengths.
Yeah, they can submerge, move away, and then surface to repair in a safe area. Yep.
Yeah. I guess they're really best in really long games.
Yeah.
So we'll get on to Fathom next, which is 12 points. We're getting even cheaper now. 4 cargo, L move, 3L, 4S, 4S. So not very good guns. If this ship shoots at a ship that was previously shot at by another ship this turn, she gets +1 to her cannon rolls against that ship this turn. I see what they're going for, and it works well with the flavor text. Oh, it's linked to Nikos Chelios, which is not a fitting crew for this at all. If the guns were better, that would make sense. If they were at least all 3S or something, but they're not.
Yeah.
So this is... I think they're trying to get you to use it in a wolf pack, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree. This one is like the most boring and least noteworthy of the 3 segments it subs. It's not really anything special. It's the most middling option. It is the cheapest, so you could kind of use it as like a defensive gold runner with a helmsman, but then you'd still need a canceller to dock, so it's just not too good. So the next one is the Barracuda. This is the first of 4 2-segment Merc submarines. 12 points, 3 cargo, L move, 2 S cannons, 2 segments, and the extra ability is if submerged, this ship can ram another ship, then move away, and then initiate a boarding party against that ship. So this one's okay. Best assets are probably guns and cargo, I guess. Problem is, paying 12 points for a couple of good cannons is not that great of a deal. You could get Executioner for 4 less points and better stuff.
Yeah, that's my meme.
Yeah, it's not really. It's supposed to be like their 2-masted gunship among their 2-segment submarines, but it just doesn't. It's just not powerful enough.
Yeah, Barracuda is, I think, overall one of their weakest ram subs because ramming is one of the. It's one of sort of the strategies I've found works the best with submarines, because what they're able to do is they're able to control whether or not they board. They're not at risk of taking return fire, and sometimes they can be really pretty fast.
Yeah.
So it's a good way of slowly tearing apart an enemy's ship in a low-risk fashion. The Barracuda is one of the ram subs that I've got like a list of setups for all of them, but the Barracuda is one of the weak ones because it has a poor base move. Well, it's not terrible for a submarine, it's average, but it's not expensive enough for you to put a bunch of crew on. So Barracuda ends up kind of, the way I have it set up is just with a helmsman, so you move SL and then you've got something for 14 points, but it's nothing special, and you can get much better stuff for a slightly bigger investment.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
So I'll move on to Mobilis. Now, Mobilis is
special too.
All right. So Mobilis is mostly terrible, except not a terrible ship overall for a reason Ben will tell you in a moment. So for 11 points, you get 3 cargo space, a base move of S, 2 4S guns, and an ability that I think you can attest to as being one of the most important in the game.
Yeah, it has canceling built in, so you can cancel a crew or ship with an S which ship cannot use its ability that turn. This is kind of, along with the Acorazado and Constitution, and arguably the Nautilus, I guess, it's like the most defensive ship as is in the game along with those others, because you need 2 cancelers theoretically to even get at it in the first place, which is crazy because 2 cancelers would cost about 10 points and the lowest 11. So because you cancel submarine, but then you have to also cancel the Mobilis' canceler just to get at it.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible defensive piece. I will also say it's one of the most important pieces for the Mercs because Christian Fior is more flexible because he's a crew canceller, so you can put him on any ship. But the Mobilis is huge for them to be able to dock at their home island. I've teamed up this ship with the next one, the Devil Ray, to run gold before. It's really expensive, but it kind of works a little bit. So the Mobilis is extremely important for canceling the Mercenary keyword for treasure runners getting back to their home island. And it's also great as like an escort for a larger gunship to provide like a really good canceller that's going to be, underwater pretty much the whole time. So it's not going to be good at fighting. It's not good at running gold, but due to its extra ability, it's one of the most important Merc pieces in the game and one of the most sought after pieces in campaign games when you get privateers involved. So I love it. It's maybe pretty much my favorite sub just because it's just so good when you use it in the right role. So
yeah, it's not one that I think I'll use in a small game though, because I'm a bit more of a casual. Yeah. But what were you gonna say?
Yeah, like the only time I use it in a small game is Merc pure games, which are not advisable to use them on their own. But
yeah,
I did okay. I think it was the MI. I played a 10th anniversary game in 2016, and I think the Mercs won. It was kind of, I can't remember, but I think Santa Molina was the gunship, but I think I had the Mobilis canceling the Devil Ray when she got home. and it worked
Yeah.
okay. In competitive matchups, it's not going to be effective at all because it's too expensive and slow. But it's pretty much their only strategy to run
Yeah.
gold outside of the 10 Masters or Fior on another ship. So
Yeah. Speaking of Devil Ray, that's the
yep,
next submarine we have up.
yeah,
This is 10 points, a 3 cargo, S move, to 4 L guns. When submerged, this ship gets plus L to her base move, so S plus L. You throw a helmsman aboard that, and you've got
yeah,
SLS.
yeah,
And this is probably the best cheap RAM sub setup because that's a great base move. Although you don't really have any space left over for extra actions, you can fit Gustav on there if you want,
yeah.
but you don't have any chance of a re-roller. So I think it's more cost effective if you just throw on a helmsman.
Yeah, I agree completely. This one's has a really this one is important to the Mercs too because it's their best ram sub and their best submarine gold runner, which is kind of valuable in a way because submarine is a very good defensive keyword in terms of not being shot at. So it's only going to be above the surface when docking at a wild island or home. So I think it has a nice dual role. It can be a really good underwater like assassin ship, and whether you have a helmsman or not, it can also be quite a good gold runner, at least compared to the other subs, which they need to at least stay. I mean, they're not going to stay competitive, but at least they have this one, so
Yeah.
better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is the Brave Selkirk.
Which
It's
is terrible.
yeah. This is the worst, maybe the worst sub in general. 2 segments, 11 points, 3 cargo, L move. Both cannons are 3S, and the extra ability is treasure swap with an S. So once per turn, the ship carries treasure and it's with an S of an enemy ship, you may randomly trade 1 treasure with that ship. Not a very good ability. Too unpredictable and tough to use. You could use it underwater, I guess, with this, but it doesn't really help that much. So it's not good. It's not great at anything, and it's completely overshadowed by all the other subs and any role you could use her for. So
I mean, I wonder if you could use it to steal unique treasure, but that doesn't strike me as a very good use for.
Yeah, then you need like Yashahi and Gria to like know what you're getting and try to find UT and stuff.
Yeah, and it just still seems like a waste. But I would like to point out, Brave Selkirk, her name takes up like 3/4 of the side of her hull, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, nice.
That would be like if HMS Titan just had like 20-foot tall lettering on the side saying HMS Titan. Yeah. So really long name on a really small ship. Oh, and we're done with the mercenary subs now.
Yeah, nice.
Yep. So moving forward, we have a ship called Forward, which is a 15.4 master with 4 cargo space, SS move, 3S, just all 3S guns. So it is a mercenary. It gets +1 to cannon rolls against any ship. Linked to Christian Fiore. This is one of their best. So it is a gunship because it's a mercenary, but you could also say it's one of their best hybrids because it does have good cargo space and a solid base move. I'm going to treat it as just a gunship because that's just kind of how mercenaries were meant to be used. As a gunship, within the context of this set, it's all right, but within the grand context of the game, you're not getting much for your points here. La Resolution from Ocean's Edge can be had for cheaper with better armament and a better crew selection.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite mercenary ships in the game. Partly because I had her way back in 2011. I pulled her from one of those packs. It's arguably their best pure gunship. We'll see a couple other decent ones later. So basically, I think it's a pretty good gunship, and especially for the Mercs specifically. It's almost like their gunship flagship in a way. They didn't get a 5 master. So basically, the guns are essentially 2S with the ability, which is great, and then it has a nice link too, which is cool. I like using Fiora on the Nautilus or a submarine in general, but it is a very good link. I've only really used her for combat, just because she's so much better at that than getting gold, and the Mercs usually don't win on gold anyway, or they can't for the most part. But yeah, it's one of my favorite Merc ships overall, and kind of one of my favorite 4 masters in the game, in a way. Next one...
I'd like to just finish by saying Forward almost made my top 10 list for Mysterious Islands, but as I drama went on in the set, it got bumped down by better stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it made honorable mentions because it is a good ship overall. It's just a little too expensive.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it could be 13 points and still be not OP.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like the thought of putting a firepower specialist on with essentially a 2S gun at the bow. But anyway, the next one is the Santa Molina. This is a 4-masted schooner, also with the Mercenary keyword. 11 points, 3 cargo, L move. The cannons are 3S, 3L, 3L, 3S, and then it eliminates crew. So once per turn, when the ship hits an enemy ship, also eliminate one crew from that ship. This one, it's not as good. It's slower and not as well armed as forward, but it is cheaper. So it's a decent gunship for them actually, because they don't really have many ships in the first place. I've used this one pretty well. She's done pretty good in my games. The link isn't particularly good. Broadside's attack isn't very good, but anyway, it has a good ability. It's strictly a gunship. I would do maybe Captain Helmsman, and then maybe Shipwrighter Oarsman, or even Firepower Specialist. But for them, it's one of their better gunships, but just because of a lack of quantity, pretty much.
Yeah, looking at this, if this were part of any other faction, she'd probably be one of those underrated favorites.
Yeah.
Because she's part of the Mercenaries, she's kind of one of their foremost and best traditional ships.
Yeah.
Although I still wager that if she had been made a little bit worse and still cheaper, she'd have been kind of more competitive.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in keeping with the theme of mercenaries and being cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Meropis, which is a 3-master, which will cost you 14 points. It has 3 cargo space, SS move, 3L, 2L, 3L. After this, it's got reverse captain, which is way too expensive.
Yeah.
I think this ship would have been all right at 10 points.
Yeah, I was about to say that. 10 points, no reverse captain. Yeah. Makes sense.
Maybe even 9. Who knows?
Yeah, I think as is, regardless of cost, it's still one of their better gunships. Once again, just because they don't have many. But the cannons are good, so I kind of like this one. Probably like Captain Helmsman, Smoke Pot, something. But it's a solid strike ship for them because it's got decent speed and accurate long-range armament. So I've used this one pretty decently too. So it's okay for them. The next one is the Hare's Luck. This is a 9-point ship. It's a 2-masted blockade runner with 3 cargo, L move. Both cannons are 2S, which is nice. Mercenary keyword. And then after looking at treasure on a wild island, you may trade any one treasure from that island for a random treasure on any other wild island. The ship must load the traded treasure.
Pointless on a mercenary.
Yeah, it's weird because it wants to be a hybrid, but it can't be. Because you pretty much need Captain and Helmsman to take advantage of the guns, and then you only have 1 cargo space for any gold. And of course, you have to get canceled to dock at home. So, I guess I don't know. It lacks a good role because the ability is treasure based, but then it has 2S guns and it's a merc. So it's basically a small gunship for them, but it's not. I'd rather have the Santa Molina for 2 points more in that role.
Yeah. I would also like to point out that for 2 points less, you can get, I think, the South China Sea's version of Le Coeur de Lion, which has 2L guns, which has, I think, the same move, same cargo space, and a more relevant ability, and it's not a mercenary.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. Yeah, that's one of my favorite French ships, actually. Yep.
Yeah, Hare's Luck is really not very good. It wants to be, but WizKids didn't think, wait, what else is out there?
Yeah, it's not very fitting ship. It's tough to get a good roll for her.
It's all over the place, and it's not very good.
Yeah.
Next is Matuku, which is a 3-masted schooner, 12 points, 4 cargo, SL move, 3 4L guns. Once per turn, this ship may randomly take 1 treasure from any ship she touches, linked to Luc Savard. I guess this is supposed to kind of be some sort of boarding-focused ship, but once you've got the gold, what the hell do you do with it?
Yeah.
Are you supposed to use it with divers or raft or something?
Yeah, I guess the canceller is the only thing, really. I do like this one. I have a soft spot for it just because it's their only, well, at least arguably, their only like non-submarine gold runner. Because the 10 Masters are hybrids, if not gunships. So the Matuku is their only like sailing gold runner, in my opinion. And it does well in that role. The SLs, I mean, compared to other factions, it might not be great, but for them, Good speed. I think I've left it empty in the past, maybe Helmsman or Explorer. And then the ability is pretty useful with the Schooner keyword because you can turn around and maybe not get pinned if you don't want to. And you don't have to win the boarding to take the gold. So it's I'd say it's one of their most underrated ships. The biggest problem is, of course, you need a canceller to dock it home. So it limits it, but it is still arguably their best, like, pure gold runner. The Devil Ray is probably slightly better, but that's debatable. So
Yeah, and as a whole, using the Mercenaries for Gold Runner, you have to go out of your way to do it, and you're better off using literally any other faction.
Yeah, absolutely, yep. The next one, I don't like at all, unlike the Matuku. The Duncan is super boring. 10.2 master with 4 cargo, L move, both cannons are 3S, gets +1 to boarding rolls. The cargo is nice, but everything else just kind of super mediocre and lame.
If this were released in Spanish Main, this would have been like an 8 or 9 point ship, and it doesn't matter which faction, but because it's a mercenary, it's 10 points. Even though this is like, this ship as is, I think is probably worth no more than 6 or 7.
Yep, absolutely.
Way too expensive. Not like outstandingly terrible. It's okay, but it's just
yeah, it's not horrible. It's just super boring and lame.
Yeah. Building upon that theme, Bashaw Folly, 12 points for a 2-master now. It's not a submarine. It's got 2 cargo space, SL move, pair of 2S guns. This ship also gets +1 to boarding rolls, or +2 if her opponent is a sea monster. When is this ship ever going to be useful? Ever?
Yeah, she's not as bad. I don't know. It's important as like a, I don't know, when you run out of other options for the Mercs, you can put a Captain Helmsman on, have a pretty good first strike ship. I mean, it's bad.
For 17 points.
Yeah, I know. It's bad compared to other factions, but I've used it okay in the past. It's pretty fragile. But with the speed and the cannons, it's kind of a unique option for the Mercs. So I've used her decently, I guess, but yeah, it's too expensive to use in 40-point games and stuff.
It's kind of cool, but I think it's worth no more than 8 at the very most.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. The next one is Bosun's Bane, remarkably similar to the Fallen Angel from DJC. 10 points, 1 cargo, SSS move, 2S cannon, mercenary. This ship can't be shot at by ships with an Esper. Fallen Angel has 1 more cargo space and a 2L cannon instead of 2S, so a slight downgrade for the same cost.
And it's not a mercenary.
Yeah, of course, yeah. This one, if the Mercs had a flotilla, this would be perfect for that, but they don't, and as a result, it's just too expensive to justify for anything. It's like a disposable gunship, but 13 points is a lot to spend on that. So.
Yeah, it's outrageous, and it's like, it's always bothered me seeing these defensive abilities on 1-masted ships.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to ram it. You're not even going to bother shooting at it.
Yeah, you don't need to. Yep.
Yeah, whoever wrote this piece like blatantly didn't understand the game that they were making it for. All right. Now we're into the crew. Count Gustav, who is possibly their best crew overall, maybe. So what Count Gustav is, he's 6 points. And of course, he's the expatriate keyword, and extra action. Yeah, D6 extra action, not SAT, D6 extra action with a link to terror. And that's really pretty good, period. And the expatriate keyword means he can be utilized by some of the one-off factions that didn't get that ability.
Yeah, that's a very good point. An expatriate. If the point costs sound off on these, anybody listening, expatriate is basically adds 1 point to the cost, regardless of everything else involved.
It's like Black Mark, but stupider.
Gustav is a very good crew. He's great on subs for ramming, or maybe the forward or a gunship. And yeah, like you said, that you could use him with like the Corsairs or whoever. The Vikings don't have a crew quite like this. And the curse could be beefed up by him a bit too. So, yeah, and it's a good link. The terror is a solid ship for him overall. So, the next one is Fuchs. This one is 6 point mercenary named crew expatriate. And then it has captain and cannoneer, basically. So it's a solid crew, saves the cargo space. Link to the Hephaestus is decent. Not much else to say. A solid combo.
It's not a bad crew, but because it's part of the mercenaries, I think he'll be ignored a lot more than maybe he could have been if he were part of literally any other faction.
Yeah. And cannoneer isn't something any other faction is lacking, so he doesn't. Expatriate doesn't really help him serve on other ships. You could get the same thing for 5 points. So.
Yeah, I mean, you may find a niche use for him where you want to have a cannoneer, but you don't have the space, but you do have points to play with, and you don't need it to repair, whatever. There may be a use for him out there where he's just right, but being expatriate really hurts him. Next is the first version of Eileen Bridget O'Brien, so 6 points again, expatriate. Captain, and then +1 to cannon rolls against English ships. This is a really bad crew.
Yeah, you're paying a premium for something you don't need it for. So
multiple core abilities.
Yeah, and the other version is so much better that you wouldn't really use this one at all. So oh well.
Because the other version is like basically SAT, and then what else?
I think it's +1 against English again. I think she really hates them.
Yeah, well, because she's Irish, so.
Yeah, but SAT is probably worth 5 anyway. So, Captain Nemo is next. The legend, linked to the Nautilus, expatriate, and then he has a one-of-a-kind ability that didn't show up anywhere else in the game. If the ship wins a boarding party, she may capture the crew with the highest point cost instead of eliminating it. A captive becomes assigned to the ship, takes up no cargo space, and can use its abilities. The captive cannot leave the ship. So you can basically snatch other crew and claim them as your own, which is pretty powerful. It's best used on 10 masters with, in my opinion, Ibrahim Ozat, who's coming up soon. He's a S-boarder. Then you won't have your 10 master get pinned, and then with extra actions too. So Nemo is perfect for like monster setups on 10 masters. There's a really good fleet using him on the Zeus with like a sack captain Blackheart. So you capture crew and then sacrifice them for extra actions. I'm using a very similar strategy on the Zanfu right now in CG3, and it's worked brilliantly so far, although she hasn't had much competition, I guess, in battle. But Nemo's a great crew for 10 masters. He links to the Nautilus, which isn't a good ship for boarding for the most part, but really unique crew and a lot of fun to use. So.
Yeah, I love the ability, but the high cost in the expatriate means he's really hard to use. If you're going to use him, you have to build the fleet around him.
Yeah, especially, smaller games he's not so great at, but 100 points or more, you can really go crazy.
Yeah, or even like 60 or 80 points or whatever, I think he's starting to come good.
Yeah.
Nikos Chelios is 5 points, expatriate. Once per turn, the ship may randomly take 2 treasure from any ships she touches, link, fathom. I like this ability, and it's kind of neat because this is the only instance of, I think, this exact ability in the game, but I struggle to find a use for it.
Yeah, it's tough because he turns the ship Merc, so even if you were using it on like the Santa Isabel or some hybrid, it would turn the ship Merc, and then you would be able to dock, so it's tough. Having Merc named crew have treasure-based ability is kind of a recipe for disaster or not using them.
Or at least confusion.
Yeah, exactly. The Fathom isn't a good ship. That's not a bad link, I guess. The Fathom is not very combat-oriented. It's got decent cargo, but... the Mercs don't have many high cargo ships in general, so he's not going to see much usage at all. So, I don't know if I've used him, maybe like once or twice, but just because I had the points available in a huge game. I don't know. The next one is Luke Savard. He is basically
boring.
A 6 point, expatriate captain with +1 to cannon rolls against Americans, so similar to O'Brien. He links to the Matuku, but that's not a good ship for him for the most part. So, I mean, Xerix is using him with the Cursed in CG3 since they're fighting the Americans in general, but unless you know you're facing Americans, no reason for him.
Yeah, he's expensive and has a faction ability and expatriate, and I think he's so boring that I just want you to talk about Osvaldo de Diaz de Clemente or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I say Clemente. It's kind of weird, but yeah.
You're right. There's an E in there. Clemente.
Yeah, this is one of the longest named crew names. He's a 7-point captain with broadsides attack, so similar to Commodore David Porter or Jeffrey Flores. He links to the Santa Molina, which is a decent link. I I like using him on the boss shot Folly because you've got two 2S guns. It's really expensive, but it is kind of fun if you manage to hit. But yeah, BA is not something I go out of my way to use, but just because some of their other named crew aren't very good, he's not too bad of an option, but they don't really have a lot of good ships to use him on. So I guess you could try, with Expatriate, you could try using him on, like, I don't know, like there's some Corsair ships with 2S guns that are like 2 masts that could do some damage with him, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or maybe, what's it, Virtuous Wind?
Yeah, it makes some sense, yeah.
Maybe, but with how good that ship's cargo space is, I'm not sure you'd want to waste that on.
Yeah.
Yeah, or, HMS Nautilus.
Yeah, that makes sense too, yeah.
Yeah. All right, next up, Ibrahim Ozat, which is 6 points. Expatriate is part of a move action. This ship it's S-board.
Yeah.
And it's got a link to Meropis. S-board is of practically no use for the mercenaries. It might be useful if combined with Nemo.
Yep.
But Nemo is already kind of such a diva of a crew as is that you may because you have to build you have to build the fleet around him. So if you're going to build the fleet around him, there is the possibility that you can get a cheaper or better S-boarder than Ibrahim Ozat anyway. So he's basically useless, I want to say.
I like him because I use him with Nemo on a 10 master, like I say. I think the usability is very niche, but when you do it right, it can be very powerful. Like the Zanfu has gone almost uncontested so far in CD3. She's been off on her own too. She doesn't even have support. She's been knocking out some ships and making derelicts. And with Ozat, Nemo, and then I think it swung by from RTSS sacking the captures that you don't need or want, because I already have Captain Helmsman on that ship. It can be a pretty powerful combo. I mean, it does require, 50 points to set it up, because you're pretty much doing a fully crewed 10-master, but in bigger games, I think Ozat shines in a niche role with Nemo on a 10-master. So
even then, though, if you can get him onto a 10-master, you have selection of that nation's crew. Let's say you put him onto Celtic Fury. Mm-hmm. The French have how many S-boarders?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I usually put him on... I usually put Ozat on... I'm thinking the Delusion, the Zanfu, I don't... Maybe the Guichuan, but usually ones that don't have S-board as readily available. So.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. The next one is one of my favorite crew in the whole game. Christian Fior is a 6-point expatriate with canceling. He links to the forward like we talked about, and we've already said some stuff about him. He's great on the Nautilus. This is a super important crew. I wrote a review about him and talked about how basically he allows any minor faction to have a canceller. So you can put him on a Jade Rebellion ship or a Viking ship. He could be used with the Cursed along with Papa Doc. I would argue that for utility, he was one of the best in the game and one of the more important named crew ever released, really. And I think the artwork is funny too. I made a point about how he looks like he's like trying to fall asleep, and he's like he looks like full and ready for a nap or something. But yeah, he's one of my favorite crew in the game. So.
Speaking of using him on minor factions, I thought to myself, what's the most annoying minor faction ship? And then I thought, well, what about Nubian Prince, which is, I think, one of 2 Four-Masters in the game to have the ability where it can't be shot with an S. Yep. Putting Christian Fiore on board Nubian Prince is kind of a recipe to make your playgroup hate you.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Wait, do I have Nubian Prince? Crap. I don't know if I do. I've got to look that up. Yeah. I'll jump onto Yashaji Angria, who for 8 points. So he's a home island raider and ship or island spy linked to Devil Ray. He's basically Devereaux for 1 more point with Expatriate. Only home island rating is, like we've mentioned, basically useless on a mercenary. I suppose you could use a mercenary ship to transfer the gold to something that isn't a mercenary, but this is still not a cost-effective way of doing things.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he's way too expensive. He could be like 4 points and not see much usage, honestly. Yeah, he's not a very good crew. Probably one of their worst named crew overall, because he doesn't provide much utility, and he's extremely expensive. As expensive as Nemo, actually. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go to the bathroom after this one, but I'll start the Pirates.
All right.
The Prussian Crown is their first ship in the set. It's a 5-master for 16 points. L move. Cannons are 3S, 3L, 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 3S, and then the ship can shoot at submerged ships with an S-verse. So we're going to start to see that ability because the non-Merc factions got it to kind of combat the submarines. As Wolf talked about a while back, the only thing you would use this for is if you know you're facing subs, because without that, the ability becomes useless. And I can think of, right off the top of my head, the Harbinger from CSG is a superior
Spanish
ship,
Main.
exact same point cost. It looks similar too, actually. So
yeah, like
and you can just keep going. So anyway,
all right. Yeah, I was gonna say basically every 5-master from Spanish Main is better than this, especially when you start to look at the pirate ones, be it Harbinger or Deliverance, because I think they're around the same cost. I think they both move L. I think they've got around the same cargo space, but they have better armament and more useful abilities. This is one that's so niche that you don't really want to use it unless you know your opponent's going to be using a lot of submarines. And even if they are, why don't you just pick up a canceller anyway and force them to surface, or just throw fear keyword on everything, use the cursed, because then you might force them to surface anyway. It's just not all that good. So I'll move on next to Coleoptera, which I like quite a lot, actually. So this Coleoptera is a pirate submarine. For 12 points, you get a 3-segment submarine with SS move, making her the fastest of the submarines. She has 3 4L guns, which are not good. It says she gets +1 to her cannon rolls against mercenary ships. That's useless. I don't particularly like her link to Captain Mission, but I used Coleoptera in a fleet known as Coleopterrorize the Seas, which is a pun, of course. Let me find where the setup is, but I think it basically turned into... Are you back, Ben?
Yeah, I'm here now, yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my setup for Coleoptera. Oh, here it is. It's any SAT crew, so 3 points there. Helmsman and then Lady Baptiste for a re-roller.
Yeah.
And for that you get a ram sub that's 20 points, which is pretty expensive for something that'll only take down like 1 mast per turn, but it moves SSS and you have a 55% chance of an extra action.
Yeah, it's a nice combo, definitely. I've always thought this sub was one of the weirdest overall ships in the game for a lot of reasons. The pirates only got this one submarine, and then there was the weird controversy with the name on the hull saying like Nautilus or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then I don't know, I'll have to find it again, but I read in a miniature review or fleet comment about how that wasn't a typo or something. I don't know. Like the conventional wisdom on that was possibly proven wrong, but nobody like noticed. I don't know. It's weird. I'll try to find it, but
yeah. There's a lot wrong with this piece because it's like visually, I think it's basically the same as Nautilus. It says Nautilus. I think it's the same color as Nautilus. I'm not sure if it has the 4L guns printed on it or if it has the 3S of the Nautilus.
Yeah, the picture shows it correct completely, but I'm confused by that.
The picture, I'm fairly sure, is photoshopped because the Coleoptera on the side is much clearer than the rest of the piece.
Yeah, this is weird.
Yeah, and the dice I'm not sure about.
Yeah, it's one of the oddest ships in the game, and also for gameplay, too. I think the name is bizarre. I can never say it right. But it gets +1 against Mercs, which is incredibly niche.
That's an interesting way of saying pointless.
Yeah, pretty much. It's got solid speed, then the cannons are bad. It's very difficult to find a role. I think you had a good one with the Ram sub. I actually like using it as a submerged home island raider
Hmm.
sometimes. Like Phantasma from Spanish Main is 4 points.
Oh, I've sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah,
because I have that fascination with faction exclusive abilities because I like them to be more differentiated.
yeah,
Captain Jack Hawkins is one I've overlooked from
yeah.
Spanish Main
That makes sense. Yeah,
because when he rams, he can then eliminate a crew,
yeah. That's when the ship is
which
pinned, though. I don't know if you get pinned with the submerged ramming when pin you. I
I
don't know.
thought that Wolf said that like when the ship is pinned is basically their accidental way of saying when this ship rams, and that it was just kind of
I don't know.
we could get a clarification on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
As is though, I think the sub is really unique. It's one of the weirder ships in the game. It's tough to find a role for. I've
yeah,
used her decently a few times. I'm trying to think of the other setups I've used, but I can't remember right now. So it's a
yeah.
fun piece.
She does have potential because she's part of
Yeah,
one of the best, if not
yeah,
no, if not the single best equipped faction when it comes to crew.
yep.
She's the fastest of all the subs when it comes to base move.
Mhm.
Um, and she does have a good cargo space. The only thing really holding her back are, the pointless ability and armament that needs improvement.
Yeah, you could. The pointless ability that could be a pun because argue that that ability is worth 0 points in a way if you wanted to
Yeah,
argue that.
yeah,
Um,
I agree.
the next one is 30 Tyrants. This is a four-masted pirate ship. 13 points, 3 cargo. I'll move. The cannons are 3S, 3L, 3L, 3S, and then it has broadside attack built in. This is a really basic ship. It's similar to the Broken Key, but not quite as good with the lower speed. Super basic and really not much to say about it.
Are you sure we haven't stumbled upon an SE box chip by accident?
Yes, it looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, it's just super average. This is not a good ship. There are better options if you want to use broadsides attack.
Hmm.
Like literally, just look to any other set. You can find something more interesting.
Yeah,
Next is, I think it's pronounced Xiaomen's Claws,
yeah,
which I think is a really pretty good ship.
yep, me
No,
too.
it definitely is when you compare it to 30 Tyrants. So 13 points, 4 masts, SS move, 4 cargo, 2S, 3S, 3S, 2S. And then it gets a boost to boarding rules and then +2 to submarines. You can ignore the second part. Overall, this is a pretty solid hybrid in the set. It's nothing like special when you compare it to stuff from Spanish Main or Crimson Coast,
Mhm.
but in the context of when it came out, this is pretty solid.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's one of the most underrated um, gunships the pirates have. I use her mostly as a gunship, maybe like Captain Helmsman, Firepot Specialist or something. It's just a pretty solid overall ship. It's not super, exhilarating to use or anything crazy
Mm-hmm.
unique, but it's probably one of the most underrated four masters in the game for the most part. I would say too.
Yeah.
I think the name is cool. And it's got decent artwork. Next one, maybe even better artwork, pretty cool. The Sunrise Fire is a four-masted schooner, 12 points, L move, cannons are 4S, 3S, 3S, 4S, and it's got S Explorer, so once per turn within S of an island, you can mark the island as explored without docking, and then it becomes unexplored with regards to all other players. This one, it's just middling. It's not very good. They have way better options.
It's like a bad, cheap version of Gale Force 9.
Yeah. I would much rather use Gale Force 9 for the speed.
It's too slow because
Yes,
that ability
exactly,
is for scouting, and this
exactly,
ship cannot canvas a board fast
exactly,
enough.
exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. So yep,
I mean, maybe they want you to do helmsman sat reroll,
that's
but if you do that, Gale Force 9 is still a better ship.
yep, absolutely.
Yep, because if you're going to be spending a ton on a scout, if you want to go cheap scout, that's not your option. If you want to go expensive scout, it's also not your best choice.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's a good looking ship, but she's
yeah,
terrible.
yeah. I was gonna say the artwork is pretty cool. Orange hull with a lot of design, but
Yeah.
all
All
right.
right. Nancy Knox. For you're laughing like the ship's stats and
Yeah,
that's why you're laughing.
yeah,
So for 12 points you get a 3 master, 5 cargo space. That's a good start. The cannons are 2S, 3S, 4S. Okay. If the ship wins a boarding party, she may take as much treasure from the other ship as she wants up to available cargo space. Okay, that's cool. She moves S. You can't ever use that ability. Ever.
Yeah.
Goodbye. The link to Cannonball Gallows is kind of interesting because I think that makes this the only ship to have a link to that type of crew, and we'll talk about that type of crew a little bit later on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I would maybe use this one if all the cannons were 2S.
Yeah.
In like some kind of weird like niche hybrid role. But another ironic thing is we're going to see way better French ship just like this one. Quite soon.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I love that ship.
Me too. One of my favorite French ships. Yeah.
Oh yes.
But yeah, this one is just all over the place. It doesn't work. I would say,
or if it even had L move, we could maybe excuse it.
Maybe. I think it would be playable at SS, or if all the cannons were 2S, then you could do like some kind of weird, like accurate hybrid. But as is,
you're right. SS would be needed.
Yeah, as is now, it's pretty bad, to be honest.
It's awful. And the problem is, if you do try to outfit it to make use of that ability, okay, so helmsman, and then you need extra actions, so sat and reroll.
Yeah.
So you've added on like 8 points there, and
the cargo gets high or low.
Yeah, then you get down to 2 cargo. So okay, cool. Let's throw on Gentleman Joe card and move it back up to 3 cargo, and then you're spending 23 points on something that can only take 3 cargo.
Yeah.
And that's only if it wins, and you almost want a boarding roll bonus. It's just a disaster.
Yeah, exactly. I would say, I mean, the Darkhawk II isn't exactly a fair comparison because that's one of the best ships in the game, but you could do, with that ship, you could do a similar setup for 20 points with Captain Helmsman and then Skyme the Monkey from DJC, who almost never sees usage, but he has this hoarding gold ability. So then you could do that for 20 points with LS move and be able to take, 4, 5, or if you really wanted to, or no, 5 treasure. So anyway, not a good ship. The next one is Devil's Pay, which surprisingly not too bad. It's a 4-point blockade runner with 2 mass, 2 cargo, L move. Both cannons are 2L for just 4 points because of the negative ability, which says the ship cannot shoot when she carries treasure.
You won't use her to carry treasure.
Exactly, yeah. Like the opposite of Banshee's Cry problem in a way. But this one is okay. In a bizarre way, you'd almost rather have it at 5, so you could do Captain and Helmsman. But even with just a Captain, this one is one of the better, I guess, one of the best, like, super cheap gunship options.
Yeah, if you've got this ship accompanying something else really slow, then this is one of your best escort options in the game because that's basically unbeatable armament at an unbeatable cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I want to find a way to try to make it able to take a captain and a helmsman, but I think it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I don't think so. Because even if you use Jonah, you would only have one other
space open. But he'd take up a space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Panama Sun. So for 10 points, you get yourself a 3-master with all 3S guns, SS move, 4 cargo space. Ramming cannot eliminate this ship's masts. This is an interesting... I never really looked at this ship all that much before. This is an interesting option for a kind of cheap, decently rounded 3-masted hybrid.
Yeah, it's okay. I find it boring, actually, just because of the stats and whatnot, and the ability is good, but not, too interesting. I find it pretty boring, but yeah, it's not too bad. It's not as bad as some of the other mediocre ones. So. Yeah,
there's worse out there. I mean, when you compare it to something like HMS Nautilus, which is a little bit more focused, I guess it falls short. But, I mean, if somebody pulled this from their first pack, this would probably be one of their favorite ships of all time.
Yeah, it's a solid option, and a good. And speaking of which, it's a good starter option because it's not complicated at all. Next one is pretty cool, actually. El Tejon is a pirate 2-master with 2 cargo, L move. Both cannons are 2L, and then you can also double them with the sniping ability. You can double the range of the ship cannons each turn, but you must roll a 6 to hit. This one's one of my favorite support gunships the pirates got. Probably Captain Helmsman. So you can basically have accurate cannons at L range, or you can snipe at LL, try to get 6s. So it's not a great ship, but it's a pretty fun escort option or sport.
Yeah. It's a cool little novelty, and actually, we were talking about the South China Seas version of Le Coeur de Lion.
Similar.
I know, like almost identical. I just looked up the stats. The only difference is El Tejon is square rigged instead of a blockade runner.
Yeah.
And instead of having 3 cargo, she has a link to Benito de Soto.
Yeah, which is impossible.
Yeah, because isn't he 9 points or something?
Yeah, it's bad.
They didn't think about that.
Yeah, I remember some old threads like ridiculing with kids when this set came out. They're not wrong.
Yeah, there's something in the last set review, or some of them. Maybe it was Barbary Coast when we found that like you couldn't use like these 2 linked Barbary crew on any ship.
Yeah,
except for like 1. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it was Barbarossa and Kira Din maybe, because it's like 16 points or something. So.
Yeah, and those 2 like, and the only ship you could use them on was linked to a different crew anyway, I think.
Yeah, Janitsuri's blood. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, just kind of a strange situation. Yeah. Anyway, after El Tejon is Shamrock, and as soon as I'm done reading this, I've got to make my own bathroom stop.
Yeah.
But Shamrock, 2 mass, 8 points, SL move, 3 cargo, 4 S4L guns. After looking at a treasure on a wild island, you may trade any 1 treasure from that island for Okay, it's treasure trading. If it had more cargo space, that would be more relevant. But as is, I just want to throw Gentleman Jacquard on her.
Yeah, she's not great. It's similar to the Jamaica from TJC, which we already saw. It's basically a simple pirate treasure running option, but it's always going to be overshadowed by Banshee's Cry, Bonnie Liz, Bloody Jewel, and others, like Neptune's Horde even. So I guess in a bigger game, like I often say, once you've already gotten those ships out there, the Shamrock is a solid option, but if your collection is a bit bigger, this one's probably going to get passed on, because it's not too special, but it's okay. The next one is the Smiling Jim. This is a 1-masted pirate sloop. Speed is SSS, 1 cargo, 2 S cannon, and then instead of island trading, this one has within S ship treasure trading. So carry treasure within S of an enemy ship, you may randomly trade 1 treasure with that ship. So this one, Smiling Jim, is okay as a flotilla tug. It's a little better than the Bosun's Bane, for example, because you can get with a captain for the same cost, but the cargo holds it back. I don't know. 1-masted gunships just don't work out very well. So without a flotilla behind it, it's pretty poor.
Yeah, it's pricey, and the ability makes no sense whatsoever.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
totally unnecessary.
So trade treasure? You're not going to be carrying treasure. It has 1 cargo space.
Yep.
Yeah, Smiling Jim. I don't know if somebody out there has some idea of what to do with it.
I guess
please tell us.
You could purposely put Plague on with the crew and then swap it, but you can just ram to get Plague off anyway. So.
Yeah, or wait, what if there's one that you can't normally get rid of? Albatross?
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Smiling Jim plus Albatross. I'll write that down. Although I think I'll never actually use that.
Yeah.
Plus Albatross. Cool. All right. After Smiling Jim comes the first version of Hammersmith. This is his not so good version, but it's still not. I guess. Yeah. No. It's.
Yeah. Never mind.
It's still not very good, I think, because +1 to her boarding rolls against mercenary ships and S-board for 6 points. That's not very good. The pirates have better.
Yeah, absolutely. Not worth using at all. I will say this might be one of my favorite like intimidating crew artworks. He looks very unhappy and not something you want to encounter at all. The artwork is cool, but that's about it. The next one is Benito de Soto with a link to El Tejon. He's 9 points, so he can't even be used on his link ship. So those kids made a big mistake there.
Big goofus.
The ironic part is he has captain and reverse captain, those 2 abilities, which ironically should be less than 9 points. It should cost 5 or even 7. So then he could be used, but reverse captain at 6 is crazy overpriced. It's worth 2, pretty much. So
Do you see the irony in the fact that he's linked to a ship that he can't be used on, and both his abilities can't be used together?
yeah, he's like a horrible crew. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's a duplicate. He's a clone because Jack Hawkins from DJC has already got these abilities. Not that you'd ever use that version of Jack Hawkins, but still, just a clone.
Well done, WizKids.
Yeah, huge mistake.
Yeah. All right. Diabolito is 7 points. If she succeeds the boarding party, eliminate all the other ship's crew. I think this ability is way too overpriced. It's kind of a funny little flavor text, considering his little rat face. But
yeah,
still.
He would fit in with the curse, but
yeah, but the curse already have that ability.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to pay more than 5 for this if I had to. It's a little bit better built into a ship. They got Blackheart from Rise of the Fiends has the same ability. Not that you use that version of Blackheart either, but anyway, yeah, not too exciting. Next one. Okay, so this is a crew for twofer on the same card. So we have on the back we have an English crew, Professor Clive Defoe, and he's 5 points for a sub hunter. This ship may shoot at submerged ships within Essever. So just good if you know you're facing subs. You can bring it in with a ZRLR limit ransom crew, add 5 points to the build total, so you could get that if you see subs in your opponent's fleet. But other than that, he's just a niche crew.
I think he's borderline useless because, if not outright useless, because for this cost or even less, you can get a canceller, which is better, can't you?
Yeah, it's much more utility. Yep, good point.
And basically can give you the same ability to attack a submerged sub because you can force it to surface instead of having to shoot at a submerged.
Yeah. The only thing I could see is maybe if you're facing the Mobilis and you need to take it out, you get a canceller and this guy, I guess. But whatever.
Yeah, that's still
really specific.
Yeah. So next up is Cannonball Gallows, who is linked to Nancy Knox, the terrible ship, which is funny because Cannonball Gallows is a game-breaking piece, and he's the final one of his type released. So there's some really weird stuff about Cannonball Gallows. So what he is he's a 5-point booster. He's a point limit raising crew, which hasn't been seen since, I think, South China Seas, and before that, Crimson Coast.
Yeah.
And he was the last point limit raiser ever released. Funny enough, he was printed with a cost of 10 points. It was meant to be 0, but it says 10 points on the card, which is really strange, and there's like an errata in there about that. But I mean, I guess, we have our thoughts about 0LR plus 5 crew.
Yeah, I talked about them in the CC set review. I find it amusing that I think I even saw something about this. I don't know if it's on the subreddit or somewhere else. Maybe it was a while back, but because it's so confusing because you're basically just losing 5 points if he's 10. So it's really dumb. The link is just kind of amusing and silly.
Pointless.
Yeah, and I think similar to Benito de Soto, he's unnecessary because they got the Hag of Tortuga, and he's just a clone. But unlike Benito, you can't even use both. You can't get 10 points, and he's got limit anyway. Just really a mistake for the most part. And artwork is super boring. He got more interesting in Rise of the Fiends, but this is the pirate named crew in the set are pretty bad. I don't know. They really could have done a better job. There's a couple clones, and then a couple overpriced, not very usable options. So anyway, on the other side of the card is another English crew, the Gentleman, who is quite good. He's a 6-point captain and reroller. I've used this guy a lot. He's been in my collection for a while. He's perfectly teamed up with EA or SAT, like Christopher Mings or Admiral Morgan, with Captain Reroll and then extra action on a big gunship. So he's a very good crew overall.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid one. Although he's also a clone because the same combination of abilities was released in Barbary Coast's tournament promo crew on a second version of Lady Baptiste.
Okay, yeah. And then the English got him later with Lord Thomas Gunn in OE, but I'd rather use other versions of Gunn than that one, of course. So.
Yeah, there's some really good versions of Thomas Gunn. After that is Captain Mission. So for 7 points, and linked to Coldiatera, by the way, this is basically one of those crew that, it's a crew saver plus SAT, which is a decent combination in the right situation.
EA in this case. Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, so it's a little better. EA
instead of wait, yeah, this is better than that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's interesting. I mean, EA on its own is 6 points.
Well, 5.
So
usually.
Wait, is it 5 usually?
Yeah, Count Gustav has Expatriate, so it's kind of deceiving.
Okay.
And then Crimson Angel from CC was 6, but Admiral Morgan was 5 originally. So.
Yeah, still though, if you want extra action and you can afford to splurge on upgrading to crew protection, Captain Mission is actually pretty good.
Yeah, and Crew Protect is generally 4-point ability. At least that's based on some of the other ones, like the 7-point SAT crew.
Maybe they meant to make it SAT, but they didn't.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Or maybe he is SAT and he's written in the wrong. Actually, let me check. I got a crew binder within reach.
No, it's not a typo. I know for a fact.
Okay.
But I will say it might just be because WizKids liked giving the pirates discounts, so they gave them this guy for 7 instead of 9 or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then he is, I think, Stephen Decatur from BC, I think, has the same abilities for 7 as well for the Americans. So it's not a typo or anything, but it's a solid link, I guess. But I'd rather use him on a big gunship. He was the pirate admiral in Command the Oceans aboard the Crusher, who we can kind of link with from Rise of the Fiends, but he's a very good crew overall. So I would say this is kind of an underrated option. And there's 2 other versions of him. You can make a pretty solid case that the Rise of the Fiends version is better. It has Captain and Harley for just 4 points, but those 2 versions are quite good, both of them. So.
Yeah, I just looked at my binder. You are correct. There is no typo in miniature trading. He is extra action.
Yep. The next one is, this is another crew for 2 first. So on the back of that same card, you've got Lieutenant Henry Ducey Chads, long name. He's an English crew with basically SAT with +1 to cannon rolls against pirate ships. So it's you kind of pay a premium for the SAT, but the 2 good things about it are that the pirates are the best faction and the most numerous. So you might very well see them, and since he's 5, you could bring him in with a 0 LR +5 crew to if you see that your opponent is going to use the pirates. So he's a good crew overall, especially in big games.
Yeah, in the right situation, I think he's probably a good choice, but he is kind of niche, and you know how I feel about faction abilities as a whole. Yeah, you could almost stack it with a bunch of stuff from Pirates of the Caribbean, anti-pirate stuff. But so we're getting into the English ships now. We're going to start off with HMS Pacificum, which is a really cool-looking ship, I must say, because it reminds me of Atlantis: The Lost Empire around back. It's got that like orange canopy bubbly thing going for it. Unfortunately, it's possibly the worst English 5-master.
I think the Shetland is worse from the next set.
Oh, yeah, you might be right about that.
That one's very little known, though, to be honest.
Yeah, so Pacificum is 15 points, 4 cargo space, SS move, which is good for a 5-master, but her armament is really strange. It's 3S, 3S, 2L, 3L, 4S. And its ability is +1 to boarding rolls or +2 against a submarine. So, kind of pointless abilities, subpar armament, and she's not super cheap. She's not, equipped all that well with a big hold.
Yeah.
I guess she's fast, but
Yeah, she's kind of all over the place. I think the armament's okay, but compared to other English 5-masters, it's not too good. I don't know. It's kind of just a throwaway. It's kind of like a numbers ship.
Yeah.
Bigger games with like a big battle fleet.
Nobody's gonna actually board this ship with a submarine anyway, because this ship's base boarding roll is
6,
Well, it's 8 with the die included against a submarine.
Yeah, submarine. Yeah.
And so if a full condition 3-segment submarine rams it, it would need to roll a 6 to even be within a hope of winning. Yeah, and that's without a boarding bonus, but still.
Yeah. I guess I would use maybe a World Hater, but it'd still be a better crew to use on the Titan or something. So.
Oh, yeah, well. for 1 point more, you can get a significantly better ship, which I'll let you start.
Yes, HMS Gallows is a 16-point 4-master with 5 cargo, L move. All the cannons are 2L, but they're essentially 1L because it says this ship gets +1 to her cannon rolls against any ship. So this is
an awesome ship.
Yeah, this is essentially the best firepower deal on any 4-master in the game because you have best guns money can buy ever. So all your cannons are 1L, which is crazy. It kind of vulnerable to L immunity like the Jarvis, but it looks really cool too. It's got a cool like red stripe on the hull, and surprisingly, as good of a gunship as it is, it's a solid hybrid option.
How much hold space?
Yeah, Captain Helmsman, you'd have 3 spaces open, or you could use one of their 2 ROTF crew with those 2 abilities built into the same crew. I'd kind of steer towards making it a monster gunship just because the guns are so good, you don't want to waste them. So I'd probably go the full gunship route and maybe get extra actions of some kind. Since the hull is decent, you could do Captain Helmsman, Mercer, SAC crew from Pirates of the Caribbean, and then get like 2 or 3 oarsmen. So there's a lot of great options with this ship. So one of the most devastating pure gunships ever.
Yeah, we could definitely trawl through the English exclusive abilities because I'm sure they've got something that would work really well with this ship.
Yeah.
Gallows is a magnificent ship. The only real failing of hers is, well, I mean, aside from the fact that you said she'd be vulnerable to ships that can't be hit by L guns, her base move is nothing special.
Yeah.
But everywhere else, she's just a tank. She's just a magnificent ship. I've already said that. But HMS Zephyr is next, and I like the name because it reminds me of one of my favorite trains, but the stats don't remind me of that favorite train. They remind me of Diesel. Because HMS Zephyr is 15 points, has 3S, 4L, 3S, 3S guns, 4S schooner. 4 cargo space, L move, and then reverse captain with a link to Hermione Gold. I mean, this set's version of Hermione Gold is pretty good, but we'll get on that later. I mean, we were just talking about HMS Gallows, which is magnificent, and 1 point more than this.
Yeah.
And this is whiz kids. Like, these ships are literally right next to each other. Have you not noticed the problem? It's like putting a trailer park next to a mega mansion.
Yeah, it's like they didn't play test reverse captain at all. I think. I guess they probably thought it would be as good as captain or better. I don't know why it's twice as expensive. I could see this ship with just schooner at like 10 points, maybe as like a cheap hybrid type thing. But as is, it totally pales in comparison to almost anything else. The English get among sister ships, like same masts and type, 4-masted schooners, the English have the Durham and the Oxford. So it's just bad compared to those. So
both of which are cheaper, I think.
Yeah. Durham's 15, Oxford 12. So both way better. The next one is HMS Iron Prince. It's a 3-masted ship for 10 points. It's 4 cargo, L move. Cannons are 3S, 2L, 3S, and ramming cannot eliminate the ship's mast. This one's not super exciting, but just a basic gunship. You can make her a hybrid if you want, but based on the flavor text and combos of stuff, I'd use mostly a gunship. So pretty basic gunship, I guess.
Yeah, and honestly, if you want a hybrid at this price, if you want an English hybrid at this price, get HMS Dover.
Yeah.
If you want to go international, get Darkhawk 2.
Yep.
This ship is not too bad. It's just there's so much good competition at this price range, and if, like you said, if you want an English gunship at this price, get HMS Nautilus.
Yeah.
Same price, faster, better guns. You don't need the cargo space if you're going to just use it as a gunship.
Exactly. Yeah.
HMS Empress of India, kind of an interesting name, and probably a better gunship too. Overall, so 11 points, 3-masted square rigged ship, 3 cargo space, SL move, all 3L guns, and then if this shoots at a ship that's previously shot at by another ship this turn, gets +1 to cannon rolls. That's not a particularly good ability, but this is like an ideal Wolfpack type of ship. And actually, I would argue using this in conjunction with HMS Nautilus is absolutely ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a solid ship. I have a soft spot for this one. I've always liked the artwork and the name, and the flavor text. The speed and the guns are the best attributes here. I don't know, the role is kind of up for debate. I kind of like the thought of just a captain and doing a hybrid. It's not a great idea, but it's a solid ship. So, and they don't really. I feel like the English don't have a lot of 3-masters with SL speed, so it fills a solid role for them. It's a good, decent ship. Next one is very specialized, not very good. HMS Challenger, 2-masted blockade runner, 9 points.
You mean bad?
Yeah, for the most part. 9 points, 3 cargo, L move. Cannons are both 4S, and it can shoot at submerged ships with an Esper, which is too bad because it only has 2 cannons and neither of them are accurate. So it doesn't really work at all. So yeah, it's actually even worse than I thought. So, and Clive Defoe is a 5-point crew you could put on a good gunship like Titan or whatever, and be a way more effective sub hunter. So this one's not good at all.
Yeah, this is really bad. This is really, really bad. I mean, the English also have some pretty good options at 9 points too. HMS Caradoc is a better ship than this as a whole.
Yeah,
wait, if I'm thinking of the right ship.
Caledonia, I think you're thinking.
Oh, Caledonia, Caledonia. That's it. Began with the letter C, A. But I don't have any excuses. Caledonia is a better ship, and even Caledonia is like nothing super special.
Yeah, and then the Bolingbroke too from Spanish Main is one of my favorites. Yeah.
That too. Yep. Next is HMS Botany Bay, which okay, 12 points, 3 cargo, SS move, broadsides attack. But the problem is its guns are 3L, 2L, 4L. So you can't even really. It's like the ability gets better as the ship takes damage, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, good point.
But it's by the time you're down to 1 mast. Yeah, I guess if you're down to 1 mast, broadsides attack looks really attractive. Sure. But as we've been talking about for the last 15 minutes, the English have a lot of good options for gunships around this cost, and this is not one of them.
Yeah, this one's, it's not a bad ship, but it's just not very good either. It's got a solid link. I think if that last cannon was a 3L, it would be not too bad of an option, I guess, but as is, it just doesn't really work. It's kind of weird. Armament is too weird to utilize effectively. Especially with BA wasting points. The next one is pretty decent. HMS Auckland is a 3-masted schooner. It's 12 points, 3 cargo, SL move. The cannons are 2S, 3S, 2S. Schooner, this ship gets +1 to reboarding rolls. So this one's kind of like a short-range alternative to the Nautilus. HMS Nautilus is superior, definitely, but the Auckland is a solid option. Solid armament and a boarding focus. You could do Captain Helmsman, maybe steal a coin, or just try to take out crew and board after like rotating with schooner, stuff like that. So it's a pretty solid gunship option for them.
Yeah, I mean, considering that she's 12 points, she's all right. Although, I guess, thinking about other English 12-point schooners.
Yeah.
Well, then again, like, everything from Revolution kind of looks overpowered in comparison to this set anyway.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, if you're playing a really big game for England and you're launching mid-sized ships, this is probably going to make the cut.
Yeah. Yes, decent.
Mm-hmm. All right, HMHV Plunder. This one is like almost straight out of Spanish Main. So this is 6 points, 2-masted ship, 2 cargo space, L move, 3 L3S gun. Pirate crew may use their abilities on this ship. This is nothing super special because the pirates do have interesting crew selection, and this ability can be really powerful if you have enough points to play with to use it, as evidenced by Roanoke. But this ship is only 6 points, and you're not going to get a lot for that. Okay, maybe Captain Jack Hawkins from Spanish Main, maybe, but he's probably still not the best use to that.
Yeah, this one bores me. I just see her as like a subpar support gunship option, but she doesn't.
Yeah,
she's not very good. So
yeah, I'd rather use Devil's Pay.
Yeah, or the next one, HMS Disraeli, is a 7-point 2-master with 3 cargo, L move. Cannons are 3L, 3L. Once per turn on the ship, it's enemy ship. Also eliminate 1 crew from that ship. So a much better support gunship option for 1 more point. Pretty solid ship overall, actually. It's pretty usable. It's similar to the Reconquistador from OE. But I guess one of England's better support gunships. Not their best, but solid.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, this is a pretty good option for. I think she's actually at the right cost, which is rare for me to say. I know.
Me too. I agree.
But she is correct in she's appropriately costed, which is, as I've just said, pretty rare for me to say. Unlike the next ship, HMS Bletchley, which is a 1-masted ship for 9 points, has 1 cargo space, SS move, a 2L gun. L range cannons cannot hit this ship. WizKids, stop with the defensive abilities on 1-masted ships. They're pointless.
Yeah, it just drives the costs up for a ship that doesn't have hardly any utility. Not good at getting gold, and I mean, 2L is nice, but only 1 cannon isn't going to do much, so oh well. Now we're into, well, actually there's only 1 English named crew left, because the others are on the back of the pirate cards. Hermione Gold is awesome, though. She's one of my favorite named crew in the game, and one of my oldest. She basically has captain, and then world hater for 7 points.
So and a link to HMS Zephyr.
Yeah. This ship gets plus 100 cannon rolls against any non-English ship. So, I mean, in small games, the ROTF version with captain and helmsman is better, but this is better in big games, and one of my favorite crew overall. Great for 5-masters, or maybe the Shui Jian 10-master that can use English crew, or maybe HMS Leicester from Spanish Main. And yeah, a lot of great options for gunships here. Good name crew.
Let's see. Wait, did I already? Oh, wait, yeah, I guess. So, yeah, Hermione Gold is, I think, one of those kind of landmark crew that's one of those really solid combos with those 2 abilities. And for that reason, she holds her own even outside of the set. So I'll jump next onto La Manila, which is the Spanish 5-master from this set. 13 points, 6 cargo spaces. Ramming cannot eliminate this ship's masts, which is a really strange ability to have on a 5-master. It's more useful the smaller you get. Yeah. She has S move and then guns that are 4S, 4S, 4L, 4S, 4S. This is really not a good ship. And the reason why I say that is because for the same price, 13 points, you can get Roanoke, which has the same cargo space, better guns, a higher base move, and a more useful ability.
Yeah.
Like, La Manila is just bad. Okay, I guess she's a durable gold runner, but...
Yeah, the only things I like using her for are like a huge cargo hybrid type thing, durable hybrid, like Captain Helmsman, and then just get some gold. Or in a huge game, like a medical barge, so you put like Helmsman and then like 4 or 5 shipwrights and like distribute them after a battle, or try to do it during a battle behind the lines. But yeah, not much.
That is an interesting idea.
Yeah, medical barges are not super useful, but it's a fun concept to play with in really big games. Like, yeah. Not a good ship though.
Basically, FEMA in ship form.
The next one is a 4-master, El Galeon de Gibraltar. Is 4 mast, 14 points, 4 cargo, a lot of 4s here. L move, cannons are average, 3S, 3L, 3L, 3S, +1 to boarding rolls, +2 against subs. Pretty basic. I don't really enjoy ships like this. Really boring. Artwork's pretty boring. There's just not much to say. So.
Yeah, it's just a very boring, as you said, it's a dull ship, and the only reason why it's in the set is because it has the we're in Mysterious Islands skin on it of +2 to boarding rolls against submarines, and for some reason it says there's a link here, but it doesn't say what.
Yeah, it probably got. I don't think there is. Probably got deleted.
Maybe it's linked to a useless crew. Who knows?
Yeah, probably.
So we'll skip on to El Corazon Dorado, which sounds vaguely like a Corazado, but is not, and is not nearly as good. It's not terrible, but it's a 13-point schooner, 4 masts, SL move, 3 cargo, 3L, 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 4L guns, and then it's got reroll. I guess it's serviceable as far as the cheaper option for a larger gunship goes, but nothing special.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. She's done pretty well in my games. I've used her effectively, I can say. I like maybe a flotilla. A lot of ships that tow flotillas are small, but this one's a decent option for a bigger one. Get like 8 guns in the same area. And then like an SAT or EA crew would be good with the built-in reroll. So I've used her pretty effectively. So I do like this ship quite a bunch. The speed, reroll, and the 3L guns are pretty solid, batch of stats for 13 points. So one of their fastest 4-masted gunship options. But the next one, not so great. La Caldera. I like this ship when I got it, but I think it's because of the artwork, and I thought Broadside's attack was a bit better than it was. 12 points, 3 masts, 4 cargo, L move. All the cannons are 3S, and then it's got Broadside's attack. Linked to Luis Duan, but he's better on a larger ship. So this one is not really too special.
Yeah, I mean, her name reminds me of cholera, the sickness that killed who knows how many people. But yeah, she's just kind of cookie cutter. I feel like we've already seen a ship like this, or two in this set.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they were because they were generic and forgettable too.
Yeah, like the smaller version of the 30 Tyrants, kind of.
Yeah, basically. On to El Villalobos, which is a 7-point blockade runner, 2 masts, 2 cargo, SS move, 4S, 5S guns. On the turn this ship is pinned, eliminate 1 crew and 1 mast from the rammed ship. I like this type of ability. And what this kind of reminds me of now is Divine Dragon, which we'll talk about later in the set, which basically has the same ability, but is a little bit slower and it's a different ship type.
Yeah.
But that one has better guns, or at least better armament. This one's kind of weird. I mean, yeah, you're supposed to use it as a torpedo, but do the Spanish really have all that many crew that can accentuate this?
Not really. I would just do probably just a helmsman, to be honest. And it's disposable, so I wouldn't want to spend a lot of points on it. It's decent. I'd rather have the Glorious Treasure, the Jade option at 6 points, or maybe USS Maryland is a point more with way better guns. So among this niche, suicide ship, in that class, this one's not one of the better ones, but I think it's the only Spanish one quite like this. So, I mean, it's a decent ship overall, but if you're willing to go outside of Spain, you'll find better options in this area.
Yeah, I've just had to scroll through the Spain exclusive abilities, and I've found nothing that really nothing that really accentuates that. Yeah. Even going through the Mercenaries, I think there's nothing of any use.
There wouldn't be.
Yeah. So almost good, but just doesn't have the right crew choices.
El Rey Lampico is next. The Spanish 3-master, 12 points, 4 cargo, L move. Cannons are 3S, 2S, 3S, and it can shoot at submerged ships with an Esper. Similar to the Prussian Crown, though, there's not a lot of reason to go out of way to use her. So.
Yeah. If you look past her ability, she's an okay mid-sized hybrid, but
Yeah.
nothing special, even in the context of the set.
Yeah.
La Sirviente is a 3-masted hybrid with which costs 14 points, 3 cargo, SL move, 2L, 2S, 2L guns, and it's got S-board linked to the mask. This is a really good-looking ship, but it doesn't actually seem like all that good a ship because it's got a lot of good stats, but it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's really pricey. It's kind of funky.
Yeah.
It's a solid gunship. The guns are almost as good as you can get. I mean, arguably, and then the speed is really good. S-board is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of an unnecessary ability that makes it more expensive. So I think it's a pretty good ship, and it is one of the better looking ships in the whole game. It is another instance of WizKids messing up links because the mask has captain with S-board, so stack the abilities. But
Nicely done, WizKids.
Yeah, so it's still a solid gunship, but I don't know, it's quite pricey for a 3-master. So
yeah, if you're going to spend that much on a 3-masted ship, you'd kind of hope that it's not only fast and well armed, but also has decent hold space, which this ship doesn't.
Yeah, or a more fitting ability like Rotator or something.
Yeah.
The next one is another 3-masted schooner gunship. El Extremadura is 13 points for cargo. L move. Cannons are 2S, 2L, 2S, and then it has +1 to boards and +2 against sea monsters. There's a link to Alejandro Malaspina, but I wouldn't really use it. This one is kind of like a slow gunship with more cargo for a slightly cheaper cost. Serviente is better just because of the speed, but this one's I don't know, I've used her decently. I think she's slightly underrated among Spanish gunships, but there are a lot better options, of course.
Yeah, she's okay, but she's just so far from being anything special.
Yeah.
Yeah. La Zaragoza is next, which is, for the most part, not an amazing ship, but I would advocate for her because that's a powerful ability and she has good cargo space. So what La Zaragoza is she's an 8-point 2-masted square rigged ship, kind of a mossy looking exterior too, which is kind of cool. Like abnormally grimy for a Spanish ship. 5 cargo space, 2 4L guns, S move. One of the ship's treasures is worth +1 when she docks at your home island. I mean, it's pretty typically Spanish. I would say, you definitely need a helmsman, and from there you could go with Dominic Freda, and maybe some other kind of crew that accentuates Spanish gold running abilities. But there's not much in the way you can. There's not a lot of options left, but it's not terrible, but it's also kind of lacking.
Yeah, you could use, I didn't think of this before, but you could use the LE version of Frida to get +3, because the abilities would stack in that case. But this ship will always hold a special place for me. I got her a long time ago. I do have a review of her now. I find her strangely pathetic or poor, but in a lovable way. It's kind of strange. I have kind of a complicated relationship with this ship, because admittedly she's not very good. You can get the Monarca for the same cost, but I'd usually just do a helmsman and not much else, maybe nothing else. I find the ship really ugly, actually. I think it's really nasty looking, in a bad way. It looks like somebody puked all over the ship and sails and hull and stuff. But my claim to fame with this one is I won, spoilers, but I won Vassal Campaign Game 1 as in Spanish with this ship in my starting fleet, which I just find really amusing because almost everybody else would use the Monarca, but I still won, so I'm bragging, but I can't help it. So I just find it amusing, and it kind of exemplifies how this ship is underrated and how good the ability is, of course, too. So one of my favorites in a weird way, but also I realize she's ugly and not that great. But it's a funny ship, so kind of like love-hate, I guess. So I'll do the next one, which is kind of similar, but then I'll go to the Bastion.
But of course,
San Theodora is similarly ugly in my opinion. 9 points, 5 cargo, S move. The cannons are 4L, 5L, and then it's got island trading. So after looking at treasure on wild island, trade any one treasure from that island for random treasure on any other wild island, and then the ship must load the traded treasure. So yeah, the Saragoa is basically has a better ability for a point less. Other than that, they're almost identical. So
Yeah.
So yeah, not much reason to use this one actually. But,
Yeah. I mean, kind of the same setup, I think, works. You can go through Spanish crew and see if there's anything relevant to use aboard it. I've actually got that pulled up just now. Going through it, Bianco's haulers, maybe. Yeah, that looks... Yeah, so Dominic Ferreira, helmsman, and Bianco's haulers, I think, are basically the only... by Bianco's haulers, I mean the Spanish main version, not the Savage Shores version. That's kind of the only way I can really see to use it. And even then, I'd almost rather use La Zaragoza. After that is La Ebro, which is a 7.1 master. So 2 cargo space, 2L gun, SL move, ignores terrain when she's given a move action. This is this is a really strange one because the Spanish do have some pretty good crew options, and I guess this kind of makes sense as a tiny interceptor, maybe. Might be useful in some niche situations. But
yeah, the Ebro, right?
Yeah, we're on the Ebro.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find a relevant sort of gunship crew to use.
Yeah,
maybe Joaquin Vega, but
nah, I'd rather
he'd get rammed.
Yeah,
Gonzalo Mora?
Nah, because I would just use this one with a captain. I don't really like to spend a lot of points on name crew on small gunships, but
yeah, well, I like to take stuff to the limit anyway.
Yeah, you like to max out crew setups, like regardless. But
part of the reason one of those crew killers.
Yeah, part of the reason for that difference is because in big games, those name crew will always go on bigger ships or better ships.
Yeah.
So in a small game, I wouldn't really use this ship in a small game usually anyway.
Yeah.
One thing, it ignores terrain, and flotillas don't have mass, so they're not affected by terrain. So it's a decent tug with the speed, and then a captain with the 2L cannon, but overall it's still not a great ship. So it's not, it just falls victim to the typical one master problem where pretty much everything is decent, if not very good, but it just can't really do much because it can't be a great gunship or a great gold runner. So it's too bad. Next one is Spanish crew Luis Zuen. His first iteration, basically Hermione Gold, so captain and world hater for 7. Links to the Cholera, but not very good. This is probably one of my favorite named crew portraits, and he's great on just any 5-master really gunship. I like the Acorazado, of course, but he could see good usage on the Neptuno with sniping, San Cristobal, stuff like that.
Yeah, he's just one of their best offensive crew. Yeah. Simple pairing, obviously good. I'll let you actually move on to and start the Mask, considering he's basically a clone of another crew we've already talked about.
Yeah, the Mask is just captain with S-board for 7 points. He links to the Serviente, but that ship already has S-boarding, so pretty silly. And Spanish also have at least 1 or 2 other crew with this ability. Victor de Alba from OE and whatever else. So it's just not that great. I'm trying to think what ships would be best on, but Spanish don't have a lot of like boarding focused 5-masters like the French pirates do. So oh well.
So we're getting into the French, like you were just saying. First of which is Henri Diop. He's a 2-point crew with a link to all French ships. And that's where the redeeming traits end, because he gets +1 to cannon rolls against mercenary ships. I think we're kind of done talking about that.
Yeah. He has one super niche usage. I don't know if you saw my review. I'm trying to look for it now, but It's the Renard Qui Vole, which is a French ship with like SSS speed and sub hunting. And then since he links, he can easily fit aboard, so you can put a captain on that ship and use it as like a really niche sub hunter, and maybe use a firepot specialist captain and then D up on to hit the Nautilus and ignore defensive ability. Super niche usage, but I did find a use for him on that specific ship that the French have. Other than that, I would never use him though. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is Le Renard Qui Vole, is that 1 or 2 masts?
It's only one, but.
Oh, so in other words, you'll catch them, you'll set them on fire, and then you'll be disabled.
Yeah, probably. Yep. Unless it's a 2-master and the fire spreads, and then they're doomed.
Yeah, but not. You know, that's all down to RNG, and you can't always rely on that.
Oh yeah. I'll do Alejandro Malaspina is a Spanish crew. So it's S Explorer, which we talked about earlier, just like the Sunrise Fire. The link to the Extremadura is not very good. 3 points for this ability is a little pricey, maybe. Trying to think the best Spanish ships to use them on. Maybe the Monarca. It's got to be something fast, but I don't really have success using this ability.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, we sort of talked about this before.
Yeah,
it's a decent ability on really fast ships, but it's kind of something that I can see being at its most useful in a big game, and then you almost need to build a ship around the use of this ability anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And even then, it's still probably only of so much use.
Yeah.
After him is Pierre Aronnax, which is another 5-point shoot as submerged ships crew from France, linked to all French ships. I would argue just as useless as the English version, although I'm not sure how many cancelers the French have. Do you happen to know?
Yeah, they only have one.
Okay, but they have one, and that counts. And Pierre Aronnax is worse than that.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I think he's a little more useful because they only have the one canceller, and then he does link to all the French ships, so he wouldn't take up space on like a good 5-master. So he's not terrible, but it's just so niche that you'll almost never use him. So, and then now we're into French ships. So Olave is the first one, a 5-master with it's 15 points, 4 cargo, L move. All the cannons are 4L, and then but they're boosted because it gets +1 to cannon rolls against any ship. It's really drab artwork, pretty boring and brown. A lot of the ships either have very good artwork or very bad, in my opinion. The ship is kind of dry as well. Basically all 3L cannons, but it's kind of just yet another okay French 5-master. They have much better options, but it's another like numbers ship for them. So. Add to the battle fleet without, getting too exciting.
Yeah, like so far, every 5-master we've looked at from this set has been like,
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, they weren't very good this set. Yeah.
Although there is a decent one coming up, but we'll get to that in a bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Loeb is just too generic to be exciting. She doesn't really have any strengths worth exploiting.
Yeah.
And the French don't have a lot of really interesting crew. So, yeah, she's pretty forgettable. Mm-hmm. La Martinette is, I think, more interesting, if a very flawed ship. So 12 points, this is a 4-masted ship, 3S, 3L, 3L, 3S, S move, crew of any nationality may use their abilities on the ship. I maintain that is a severely underrated ability, but... La Martinette has a problem in that she's got usable guns, she's got good cargo space, but her base move is so bad that you need to focus on fixing that problem.
Yeah.
And when you do that, compare La Martinette to Obago.
Yeah.
This is basically just a worse version of Obago.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
Which is a shame. Because you can do so much with this ability, but you have to spend who knows how many points fixing the problem of the terrible move.
Yeah, I'm thinking 24, because you could do Captain Helmsman and then Ellie Griffin from Arch the Fiends to get SSS, but
yeah,
but you could also use him on Albago. So
yeah, and I think you'd be moving faster. You'd get LSS.
Yep.
Yeah, La Martinette's problem is that there's just literally a superior ship out there. Period.
Yep. Yeah, directly superior. Yeah, it's not very good. I've used it a tiny bit. I'm pretty sure this was the ship that ended Command the Oceans. I think she shot off the last shot in that game for the French one. So it's
the
weird
most
little
significant thing she's ever done, and will ever do.
Little minor claim to fame, but anyway. The next one, I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know.
Flamberge?
Okay, cool. This one's a 4-master schooner. 12 points, 3 cargo, L move. All 4 cannons are 3S schooner, and the ship's crew cannot be eliminated unless she sinks, which is a good ability, but it's kind of wasted because the ship's just not very good. I feel like all the guns could be 3L, and it would stay the same cost and be a bit better. It's a really...
And you'd still forget about her.
Exactly, yeah. The ability is the only thing that stands out, but it doesn't help the ship enough to make her good, so it's very forgettable.
Yeah, I mean, the French don't really have all that many, they don't really have all that many super interesting crew, like I've said. I don't even think you'd use the Fire and Steel version of Capitaine Azur on this. Maybe one of the Parley crew could be of use.
Maybe,
yeah. Just not really all that interesting at all.
Yeah.
So let's see, we're getting onto the next page. Oh, I get to kick off probably one of our favorite ships from the set, which I have actually seen used in my playgroup. I think it's pronounced Le Décharge, but my dad went, Le Discharge.
Yeah.
Because we were immature in my house. So Le Discharge is 13 points for a 3-masted square-rigged ship. She has 5 cargo space, SS move, 2S, 2L, 2S gun, and if she wins a boarding party, she can take as much gold as she wants. I don't think the ability is super interesting, but she has a usable move, great cargo space, and great guns at a reasonable price.
Yeah, I would say it's one of France's best hybrids overall. I think the ability is pretty good. It's always tough to maximize because every crew you add takes up an extra space. So, and it's kind of a pricey ability. Usually 5 points on crew. So for that ability, you want to have, because you could take 1 coin with a boarding party. So to just take 2 would be lame. So I'd like to have at least 3 spaces open when using this ability. So Captain Helmsman Oarsman maybe. Without getting into the pretty good named crew options you could do, but. Yeah. Overall, it's pretty stacked. It's a pretty darn good ship. It's also really pretty too. It's one of the better looking ships from the set. Purple and nice.
Yeah, one of very few purple ships.
Yeah, the Hudson and not many
others. Speaking of named crew, real quick, Capitaine Azur from Fire and Steel, like I was just talking about, is can further accentuate this ship's boarding strengths.
Yeah, that's a solid point. One of my
provided you pick on small ships.
Yeah. One of my favorite French ships and kind of one of my favorite 3-masters. All right, so we like that one a lot. The next one, not quite as much. So
I think it's Vercingetorix.
Oh wow, yeah, I was gonna say it like English-wise.
Vercingetorix. So that's 5 syllables.
Oh my god.
Minus
that's a tough one. It's a French 2-masted blockade runner, 8 points, 3 cargo, L move. Both cannons are 3L, and ramming cannot eliminate the ship's mass, which is a good ability for it to have. I see it as like a durable, if somewhat pricey, support gunship. I'd rather have the Coeur du Lion from South China Seas, or maybe a few others, but it's not too bad, I guess, but it's not great either. So
I'd rather have Coeur du Lion. This is an ability that is more useful on small ships, but 8 points for 3L guns, you can do better. Probably even among the French, outside of Coeur de Lion.
Yeah.
But, so let's skip on to Le Roquin Noir, which is 11 points, 2 cargo, SL move, all 3S guns, can shoot submerged ships, We've already talked about this ability. This ship's stats are nothing special. The ability is niche, and there are better choices for ships that fit that niche anyway. This is not a good ship.
Yeah, absolutely. The speed is the only like saving grace or whatever, and it is quite quick, but that's about it. The next one is kind of similar in a way, but much less niche. Espadon is a 3-master for 12 points. SL move. All the cannons are 2S, so 3 of them, and then +1 to boarding rolls and +2 against the submarine. So another submarine-focused ship, but this one is more much better as a general gunship. It has good speed, good cannons, and enough cargo to make it pretty worthwhile. So pretty good ship.
Yeah, although, considering we just talked about La Décharge, this is really hard to justify because she's faster and she's cheaper, but she is so much more poorly equipped when it comes to cargo that this one always plays second or third fiddle.
Yeah, much less of a hybrid, but a quick strike gunship. Yeah.
Although La Espadon is also purplish in the photo, it looks like.
Yeah.
Which is... Yeah. Le Petit Dauphin is after that. This is a 3-masted schooner for 9 points, 4 cargo, L move, 4S, 4L, 4S guns, may move S after loading treasure. I guess it's a gold runner, but the French have so many better options than this.
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna crew it up, you're only gonna put a helmsman, nothing else.
Exactly. Yeah, I was exactly gonna say that. That's the only thing I've done with it. Yeah, it's just it's kind of just like a slow gold runner for large games when you run out of other ships to launch, basically. So, the next one is Le Lache du Calvados, is an 11-point 2-master, 3 cargo, SS move. Cannons are 2S, 3S, and the ship cannot be shot by ships with an Esper. Probably my least favorite ability. It's an okay gunship, but I don't know. If you really want the defense, you could pay the premium, but for a support gunship, mass is quite a lot. So.
Yeah, it's neat, but there's not a lot you can do with it. I'm gonna keep complaining about crew options. She's not super well armed. She's not really fast. If you want to spend a lot of points on a 2-masted ship, I would rather go with what's it called? It's from Crimson Coast. It's the English one, HMS.
Or no, that's not Crimson Coast.
It's not Algiers. It's
Lady Provost.
It's not Provost. Oh man, I can't remember. It has a base move of 3. Yes, Gibraltar. Yeah. I'd much rather go with Gibraltar because there's so much more you can do, and that's only a point more. Yeah, that said, this one still does have a great ability and okay armament. I'd be tempted to find a use for her.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So after that is L'Emeraude, which is not good. This is a 7.2 master, 2 cargo, SL move, 4S, 4L guns, gets +1 to ships previously shot at. That's not good. You can pay 1 more and get those cannon ranks as base on what was it, Vercingetorix.
Yeah. Yeah, I did just think of a random usage. The few times I've used this in the past is as an empty gold runner in a big game, but I guess you could do a flotilla with a captain and then have the flotilla shoot first and then have the ship shoot after. Or no, actually that would be tough because you have to complete the ship's action. So yeah, it's just not very good. So,
yeah,
kind of weird artwork. It's got like weeds growing up the sails or something. But the next one is a cheerleading ship. It's a 1-masted French sloop, 14 points, 2 cargo, L move, a 5L cannon, and friendly ships with an S of the ship get +1 of their cannon rolls. So should be 8 or 9 points. Or I mean, most people wouldn't use it at that, but it would become more viable in large games. I did use it in Command the Oceans. It did pretty well because the battle area was so packed full of gunships that she was able to stay behind friendly lines for most of the action. But yeah, I agree. Anything under 100 points, it's kind of crazy to even attempt using it.
Is it just me, or or did the French get the worst cheerleaders? Because they have this and Le Solitaire, both of which are bad, even in context of the cheerleaders.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
And funny enough, one of the members of my play group, when they were still new, went out of their way to use the Scepter in a 40-point game.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which
the one thing about that, it has 3 cargo, so I guess you could do it.
They didn't use it for gold running. They followed around a small ship the whole game. Yeah, new players are interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not so great either, but I just think it's funny because it's like egregiously bad.
Yeah. I have noticed that there's a lot of abilities that you think are good, but then you use them and it's like, oh my god.
Oh yeah.
So, and broadside attack is one of the biggest examples of that. So.
All right. Up next is Ned Lands, and this is, believe it or not, this is a really bad crew.
Yep.
But this is also one of France's faction exclusive abilities. Thank God for that. But so for 6 points, you get +1 to boarding rolls or +2 against sea monsters or submarines.
Yeah.
This is the only instance of that ability in the game, which is a good thing because that's way too expensive, and I don't know when you're ever going to use this.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah. I think the name is funny. We had a forum member with this exact name, basically, but it's been inactive. The account's gone, but
maybe they were from the Netherlands.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I think kind of like I don't know if it was Captain R maybe, and Captain Nemo was like a fan of the Mercenaries, or maybe not, or an anti-merc person. I don't know. But
yeah.
I think he could be 3 points, and I would struggle to justify using him. So.
Yeah,
The
I think he should have been like 2 points and just been a really strange option for the French.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah. Okay, so then they got a firepower specialist, but the Americans are next. They have a 5-master, which is USS Stevens. It's a 20-point ship with 4 cargo, L move. The cannons are 3S, 3L, 2L, 3L, 3S, and then it has captain and reverse captain built in. So it's one of the only ships in the game, or just about the only gunship that can do that. So, I mean, theoretically, you could just put a helmsman on, and then you've got a gunship. I understand the novelty, and I think it's really cool, and it's got a cool like rainbow paint design, but I do still find this one kind of overrated. HMS, or not HMS, the Enterprise is 2 points less, and it's way better. And the Americans have a long line of amazing 5-masters. This one is kind of
Blackwatch.
Yeah.
They've got so many good 5-masters.
Yeah, both Constitutions. And this one just feels like a middling option. I think it's a bit overrated. I still like the ship, but I think I don't know, it's quite pricey to justify.
It's easily the best 5-master in the set.
Yeah.
But that's because the rest are so bad. Outside the context of the set, it's maybe okay.
Yeah.
I'd say you could even make it almost a fleet support type thing, sort of a fleet support hybrid by doing a helmsman and putting the cargo master on board this.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Because it's a pretty good place to keep it safe. Or you can just put a bunch of important like fleet crew on it. Fleet Admiral, 0LR +5, Cargo Master, all the really important stuff can go on here because it's so big and so expensive.
Yeah, that's true. And then if you had cargo space left over, you could dump like a smoke pot on it too. Yeah. Because then even if a 10-master comes after you, you can reverse captain away. So
absolutely. Yeah, I've got to actually write that down. USS Stevens and smoke pot.
Yeah, I might try that in CG3, which I'm giving away to anybody listening, but whatever. I don't know yet for sure what I'm going to put on this ship.
We'll see. Or maybe just smoke shot. Who knows?
Yeah, whatever.
All right, after USS Stevens comes USS Layman, which is one of my favorite submarines. And it's not just because I like the Americans and I like submarines. I've actually used this ship before. I'll read the stats off before I tell you why it's so good. 12 points, 2 cargo, SS move, 3S guns. If submerged, the ship can ram another ship, then move away and initiate a boarding party against that ship. On its own, that doesn't really sound very good, I know. But Oh, it's linked to Captain Montana Maze, but I don't use that version of Montana Maze on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is I will put on a helmsman the Ocean's Edge version of Montana Maze, which is SAT plus crew protect, and then I'll put on Wayne Nolan. And then you've got a ram sub with a 55% chance of SAT, 3S move, and the ability to ram twice and board twice in a single turn without risking the loss of your own crew.
Yep.
This was a huge game changer in one of the early games I played with 4 people, and it was tearing around the board, disabling ships. This is, I love the USS Layman, and it almost got submarines banned from my play group.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, I adore this ship.
Yeah, that makes sense. You've had a lot of success with it. Kind of like we with the Saragossa in a weird way.
Yeah.
But I think you make a good point. I think as is, without considering crew options, it's really not a great sub. I don't love it. I think you might overrate it slightly, but
I probably do.
Yeah, but I think it's good you mentioned the crew combo because without something like that, it doesn't have a great role, and it wouldn't be that great. But if you optimize the crew setups, it can be a real terror, pun intended.
Yeah.
So I think it is quite good, provided you set it up right, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's I can fathom why you say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Whether or not lets you get that pun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna turn into a long series or something.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is USS Egan. This is one I like a lot. 15-point 4-master L move. Cannons are 2S, 2L, 2L, 2S, and the ship can shoot at submerged ships when esper. So a much better version of some similar ships we've seen in this set with that ability. This might be the best pure sub hunter, even better than the Prussian Crown because of those cannons. I think it looks pretty unique. It's got a funky design on the hull that makes the upper gun deck look kind of strange. But anyway, but this is, I mean, as American 4-masters go, they have a ton of good ones. The Franklin is obviously much better, but I think the Egan is kind of underrated. She's best in large games, and the Americans did just launch her in CG3 because the Cursed are using, I don't know, at least 3 submarines right now, some with canceling. So this one's on a squadron headed that direction. So I think it's kind of underrated. Niche use, of course, but a pretty solid gunship, honestly.
I think she's good, but considering how much good competition there is for 4-masters in this set and in the game as a whole, just look at, HMS Oxford, HMS Gallows, Franklin, HMS Dover.
Yeah, Hudson.
There are so many good 4-masters, and the reason why I think you conclude that she's underrated is because she definitely is good, but she's forgotten because for her price, you're not getting as much as you get with so many of these other ships that we've just mentioned.
Yep.
Yeah. She almost made honorable mentions for the Mysterious Island set ranking.
Nice.
Grampus is next, which reminds me of the Austrian Christmas demon thing, Krampus. But Grampus is another not very good ship. Artwork is great, I think, but 15 points for a 4-masted schooner, 3 cargo, SL speed, 3S, 3S, 3L, 3L, +1 to boarding rolls or +2 against sea monsters. It's all over the place. I don't see the point.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's really pricey, but the speed makes it a reasonable gunship option. My friend in college had this one. It was one of his favorite ships because he liked the Americans. He didn't have like a lot of stuff. I did give him some packs and stuff. And some duplicates, I should say. It's not horrible. It's okay for a flotilla, but better off using the Hudson or President. She was recently sunk in CG3 by the Cursed, but yeah, not great. If not for the speed, she would be pretty awful, I guess. But
yeah,
so the saving grace is speed is huge in this game, so it's not a horrible ship, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll do the next one, then I have to go to the bathroom already.
Yeah.
USS Paladin is a 3-master for the Americans, 12 points, 4 cargo, L move. Cannons are 2S, 3S, 2S. It gets +1 to boarding rolls, and of course, +2 against subs. Linked to Shinji Smith, who's the sub-hunting American crew. So a pretty dedicated sub-hunter, but regardless of abilities and links, it's an okay gunship slash slow hybrid option. Kind of similar to the Relampigo or other ones in this set, but I kind of like this ship. I think she's slightly underrated, and I like the artwork too, but it's kind of a middling option.
Yeah, I really like the artwork myself. The armor is good, the cargo space is good, but she's not super cheap. She's not all that fast, and her abilities aren't good. They don't really play into her strengths. I think if she was like 10 or 11, I'd really say 10 points. If she were 10 points, she'd be a lot more significant. But as is, she's just kind of just forgettable. So I'll move on to USS Quigley, which is another strange support gunship, many of which the Americans don't have because the Americans don't have a lot of cheap ships. This one is 8 points. It's a 2-masted blockade runner. Its guns are both 2L. It moves L and has 3 cargo space. And its ability is once per turn, when this ship hits an enemy ship, also eliminate 1 crew from that ship. That's a really good ability to pair with those guns. Although I must point out that this is basically an inferior version of Executioner from Revolution. Yes, I know, my trope, but literally compare them. Executioner has this ability. Executioner has more cargo space and a faster base move. This is just a slightly inferior version. I like the Americans, but I can't quite excuse that. Even if you've got like a cargo master in play, you're still down on base move. So I mean,
yeah.
And this isn't really a ship you'd waste any of the Americans' really special exclusive crew like Ralph David on.
Yeah, not really. I think she's pretty good. I think a lot of people like this ship. It's a good one. I mean, the Executioner is pirate, and it's one of the best support guns in the game. So,
yeah.
And the Americans, I don't know. Well, actually, they have some good ones in South China Seas, but they're kind of known for their large gunships, 5 and 4 masters.
Yep.
So for them to get quite a good 2-masted support option is pretty cool too. So definitely a ship that I like using and have used before. Next one is USS Bartlett. Not so interesting. 3-master, 10 points. Yeah, 3-master, 10 points, 4 cargo, L move. Cannons are 4S, 3L, 4S. Ramming can't eliminate the ship's mass. So it's kind of like that Panama Sun, but just worse. So it's not very good.
It's not even everywhere. It's nowhere.
Yeah.
It has good cargo space, and that's it. Everywhere else is just kind of...
Yeah.
It's just leaves a bitter taste in my mouth.
Yeah, it's very drab. Yep.
USS Bellevue is next. This is a 3-masted schooner for 12 points. 4 cargo, L move, 3S, 3L, 3S. And it's got reroll and a link to Kodiak. This is... Yeah, this is just really average.
Yeah, no, I'm laughing at Kodiak, not the ship. It's just bad. Anyway.
Yeah. There are so many better options for 12 points, even among the Americans. This is so generic. Yeah. I mean, there might be a use for it, because I found a use for Pamplona, which is in some ways even worse. Yeah. But the Spanish at least had some like weird options for crew that allowed Pamplona to have its own like perfect special niche.
Yeah. But yeah, I was laughing. Kodiak reminds me of like Kodak or something, like the camera.
Enjoy the Kodiak moment.
Yeah. And yeah, Kodiak does have funny artwork, I guess. Really, actually pretty strange.
Yeah.
But the Bellevue reroll is a valuable ability, especially for Admiral crew.
Yeah, and they do have a fleet admiral.
Yeah, I'd rather them on the Kentucky or the President, which are 2 4-masters that I like more.
Agreed.
And this kind of ties into last episode. We talked about Xerx's custom Americans. Captain Stephen Rogers is a captain admiral for 9 points, and talking about that in the last episode inspired me to launch him in CG3, where he's on the Bellevue with a helmsman. So, going to be kind of like a like a hybrid escort for gold runners while providing AAs, admiral actions. So, but other than that, yeah, the Bellevue's not too interesting, but okay, but not great. Next ship is Septem Maria. This one is a 2-master for 10 points. L move, cannons are 3L, and it gets +1 to cannon rolls against any ship, so basically 2L guns, but other than the expensive firepower, there's nothing to say.
Yeah, like literally, what is it? Quigley's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. I mean, I guess their justification is maybe that Quigley is uncommon and Septem Maria is common. Yeah, I don't think that's a good rationale for that. No. It's just absurd. Tombstone is next. The American ships have a lot of really interesting artwork. They must have put somebody on these who's having fun this set. But Tombstone, 7 points, 3 cargo, L move, 4S, 4L for guns. Once per turn, the ship may look at 1 face-down cargo on any ship. This is kind of nowhere. You could use it as an empty gold runner if you put a cargo master in play, but this is no good.
Yeah, I agree. I'm using it. It's a perfect ship for George Washington LeBeau from RTSS, which is basically an American version of Lord Micron. So in CG3, I have this ship with an oarsman to protect GWL, as I call him. And so this ship just stays at home while giving actions to other ships, which is quite valuable, especially in a large game. And it's only a 14-point combo total, or 13 if you forego the oarsman. And then the ability of spying doesn't take up an action, and you can do that at the same time. So a niche use in larger games, but I did find a way to get her in play somewhere.
Larger games when you proxy and return to Savage Shores anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Even fun. Then, don't the Americans have... Wait, isn't Rattlesnake 6 points?
No, it's Rattlesnake.
5. Rattlesnake is also kind of a good ship in context of the Americans.
Yeah, I'm using that one as a gold runner. So
yeah, you have to. So I guess it makes sense to use Tombstone as a place to put LeBeau. Let's see. I think it's your turn to start Montana Maze.
Yeah, this version of Montana Maze, I guess the first one of this guy, I thought it was a girl for the longest time.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. This is the first version of Maze. There's 3 versions. They're all pretty good. This one gets +1 to boarding rolls, and then on a 5 or 6, an extra action. So just like, or no, not, well, whatever. Anyway, similar to Captain Mission, but not quite. Linked to the Layman, which is a decent submarine with the right crew. And, I don't know. The different versions of Maze, it just depends on what setup you're going for. Like the Concordia has a lot of different good options, and it links to a different version of Maze, but essentially they all link. So, so the Layman and the Concordia are the best ships to use them on, but any 5-master could benefit from this kind of crew, really.
Yeah, although this combination of bonus to boarding rolls and extra action is kind of weird, and I'm not sure how useful it really is.
Yeah. Maybe Roanoke, I don't know.
No. Yeah. I think it's better on a 3 or 4 master.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that's where boarding roll bonuses are kind of at their absolute best. And an extra action, well, I guess you'd want it for something, I don't know. You'd have to find some sort of American ship that's focused on boarding. I think these are good abilities, but they're hard to combine.
Yeah.
So next up is Shinji Smith. Okay, this is another submerged ship, blah, 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 linked to USS Paladin, which is a sub-hunter. I may just jump onto Kodiak, because he's more interesting, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
So his card art is basically a really stoned Eskimo. For 5 points, you get a crew that's linked to USS Bellevue, which is not that great a ship. Kodiak gives +1 to boarding rolls, or +2 against sea monsters.
Yeah, that's why I was laughing earlier. And plus, he's an Eskimo, but he's all, like, tied up. He looks like he's a captive or something. I don't know. It's very strange.
He's tied to the mast like the missionary in...
Yeah, pirates. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's slightly better than Ned Land's for 1 point less, but I don't know.
But you don't get that bonus against submarines.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
be it. I'll take it. Yeah, the name crew in the set are kind of all over. They're really bad or really good. So this is a useless one. Okay, hey, that ends the regular faction stuff. So we're into the unique treasures now. Fact plans is UT. It says when the ship rolls for affected mysterious islands, subtract 1 from the die rolls result. We'll see a more interesting one next. This one's a negative UT, but it's really not that negative. It's pretty much kind of laughable. It wouldn't really affect the game much.
It's not that bad. I mean, you'd kind of need to have it attached to a ship early in a big game with Mysterious Islands for it to have a significant effect. Yeah. Next up is Nemo's charts. When the ship rolls for affected Mysterious Island, add 2 to the die roll result. This one's interesting. This one's more cheesable. You wouldn't want your opponent to find it, though.
Yeah, this one is pretty crazy. We talked about how game-breaking some of the Mysterious Islands are. So if you get this and start doing that, you can the game can get really crazy in a hurry. You could use this to farm events or UTs from outside the game. It's a nice kind of like guarantee too, because if you roll a 1, it turns into a 3, so then you can't get the negative effect, which is cool.
Yep. Or if you roll a 1 or a 2, you're safe. If you roll 3 or higher, you get the good effect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you got a pretty good chance of being able to farm effectively. So
it tilts your odds really favorably.
Yeah, it's quite effective when using MIs. The next one, Enemy of the State, is a classic negative UT. It just says this ship gains the Mercenary keyword, so it's pretty rough to find when you get a Gold Runner, like La Joya del Sol, and then you can't empty your cargo
especially if it's your only Gold Runner.
Yes, exactly. So usually you'll try to transfer this to a gunship or something, but that can take a lot of time, and you might be sunk in the process. So it's a good negative UT for gunship-based fleets.
Yeah. One thing I'm not totally clear on, but I'm fairly sure I know the answer to. This does not change the faction the ship is a part of, does it?
No. Yeah, no, it just gains the keyword. So.
Oh, dang! Because if it did, you could utilize those +1 to mercenary ship things, sort of like how I came up with that fleet that was +1 against the cursed.
Yeah, I remember that.
But it doesn't quite work in this case. Yeah. Luddite's Revenge is next. The rank of each of this ship's cannons is increased by 1. Remove Luddite's Revenge from the game when the ship succeeds at a shoot action. I think this one's really pretty useless because odds are it's going to be found by a Gold Runner.
Yeah, this one's not too good. I don't know if I've used it, and if I have, it was kind of just forgotten about. Next one is much more interesting and pretty cool, actually. Metal Hull says this ship's base move becomes S, and enemy ships must roll a 6 to hit her. If this ship is hit, remove Metal Hull from the game. So this one is, so if a Gold Runner finds it, it'll get really slow, but also extremely durable. So it's pretty interesting. Maybe the best thing, though, is, and this gets almost like OP in a way, is to transfer it to something like the Acorazado or the Dreadnought, which
That's
already
what I was just thinking.
Yeah, they already have S speed, and then they have their amazing 5-mast gunships, so to make them even more defensive powerhouses could be pretty crazy. So this one's a really interesting one, actually. I like it a lot.
Or, wait, what if you combined it with Nemo's plans so it wasn't removed?
Yeah, and then that would
so this on El Acorazado with Joaquin Vega.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's... I don't think you can get any more durable than that. Yeah. Anyway, because you'd need to roll 3 consecutive 6s to take down even the first mast.
Yep,
Oh, yeah, I don't want to think about that anymore. Don't anybody play that, please. That's unfair. So next up is Mines. Load this treasure face down. Reveal it when target enemy ship moves within S of the ship. Choose and eliminate 1 mast from the target at the end of her move. Remove mines from the game. This is a good one. This is a good defensive UT for Gold Runners.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and it'll be of little use to your opponent if they find it and you're not going after them.
Yeah, true. Yep.
So it's a really good option if you're doing a gold strategy.
Yeah, yeah, I've had this one for a while. I haven't really used it enough, I guess, but you could also, if you wanted to, you could transfer it or put it on a gunship, and then kind of let your opponent come to you, and
Yep.
maybe you could get really brutal, have a canceller with mines, and then
Oh,
they lose a mast and can't even shoot or something nasty.
yeah.
But anyway, kind of like,
Wait, did you say masty?
oh, nasty, no. Yeah.
Either works.
Yeah, I want more puns. But but yeah, that'd be an interesting strategy, kind of like a deception
Yeah.
strategy. Like you could well, maybe they would predict it, but you could use it with like a fast gunship and then just kind of sit there, and then you flip both like on the same turn.
Yeah.
For the next one, this is one you like. Power cannons. It says
Yeah.
the range of each of the ship's cannons becomes 2L. Remove power cannons from the game when the ship succeeds at a shoot action. This one is pretty powerful, even though it's only one-time usage. I used it on HMS Swallow in Vessel Campaign Game 1, and that's a fast ship, so it had like incredible striking distance. I think I had extra actions. So I had like SLS speed with like super long range guns or something. It was pretty wacky,
Yeah.
but overall it's good. Without Nemo's plans, it usually doesn't affect the game too much, but it's still a cool UT.
Yeah, I have something brewing with this that has to do with one of those ships that has the you may double the sniping ability. Um, this is yeah, I think it's a really interesting UT to combine with Nemo's plans. There's a lot you can do with Nemo's plans, but we'll get to that later. I like this one, but at the same time, extra gun range doesn't do nearly as much as extra speed does.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. All right. Next is Periscope. Load this treasure face down. Reveal it when the ship is given a move or shoot action. Any one target enemy ship cannot use any crew or ship abilities this turn. Remove Periscope from the game. So it's basically a one-use canceller in UT form, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I will say, I asked in the rules thread, and since it says this turn, it doesn't like loop back around, so it's not as good as a canceller. You can only use it like on your specific like fleet turn. So you can use it to cancel like the Accords Auto's ability, but you can't use it.
Canceller?
Yeah, and you can.
Because I don't see anything about range.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's one of the advantages. Yeah. But you can't use it to like cancel an enemy captain when it's their turn. That's the problem. So
yeah,
it's good, but I don't know. I thought it was better, but it's not as good as I thought.
Yeah.
The next one is Screw Engine. Hold this treasure face down. When the ship is given a move action, you may reveal Screw Engine. The ship can move twice. Remove Screw Engine from the game. This one's really great. It's very good for gold runners. If it didn't take up a cargo space, it would be almost too good, probably. But it's still quite good for making a getaway or getting back to your home island real quick. It is kind of, well, I don't know about for other people, but for me, it's kind of infamous on MT because Miniature Trading's forum doesn't let you use the word screw in your posts, so it always beeps it out. So then you have to go and edit your post, and I put a K instead of a C to fix it. But
I see.
Yeah.
That's really strange. Yeah, this is another one that I think, Nemo's plans, just abuse it. I don't know what ship is perfect to do it on. I'd also want it clarified whether or not moving twice counts as one move action or two.
I think it's 2. I'm gonna check the code too real quick.
Boo.
Yeah, pretty sure.
That's no fun, because it would have been really cool if you were allowed to give something a double length move action and then use like Micron to double it again.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Move the entire length of Manhattan Island in a single turn.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after Screw Engine is Targeting Scope. Load this treasure face down. When the ship is given a shoot action, you may reveal Targeting Scope. One of the ship's cannons automatically hits an enemy ship within range. Remove Targeting Scope from the game. It's kind of like the opposite of Monkey's Paw, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly, pretty much. Yep. I'm looking up screw engine in the code, and it does say, I guess I thought otherwise. When this ability is revealed, the ship may move its entire base move twice within a single move action. So, yeah. And then there's some like caveats. I don't know, like modifiers can be used, but then abilities that apply at the beginning or end of a move action only apply once, before or after the entire double movement is applicable, which makes sense. So it is pretty abusable in that regard then.
Huh. Cool. I'll have to find a use for that.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, yeah, that's the end of the UTs.
Yeah, targeting scope is kind of not too exciting, but that's all right. Doesn't usually affect the game hardly at all. Before we move on, I'll draw a little attention to how bizarre the shipwright for the Mercenaries looks, number 130. Probably easily the most strangest generic crew picture I've ever seen. It looks like some kind of brute with like cross-eyed, and it's like sticking out like a purple tongue.
Giant tongue too.
Yeah, and it's got like a top hat.
Wait, his tongue is like the size of his hand.
Yeah, and he's got a top hat on with like a feather in the back or something. And he's got like some kind of scarf but no shirt, and then almost looks like an orc almost. I don't know.
Yeah, he kind of does.
Yeah, it's just
that's racist.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the set, or if you can look at it later, number 130, the shipwright is not only the weirdest generic crew portrait, but one of the most noticeable crew in the entire game. So it's one of the funny things about how they change generic crew. I don't really mind using the same artwork for every faction, but this is one of the hidden gems of changing that up. So
yeah.
So and then we get into the super rares. Kadera is a mercenary sea monster. Weirdly enough, it's a 5-segment squid with no cargo, 14 points, SS move. All the cannons are 3S except for a 2L, which is the head. It's got sea monster, and this sea monster can attack submerged submarines, which is pretty confusing, but decent ability. As squids go, it's kind of middling. It's not too bad or too good, but I don't know. I'll let you talk more about it though.
I think as far as they go, it's nothing really special, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just kind of an average one given a skin of, hey, it's part of this set, so let's give it a relevant ability. It's really not very good. It's not well armed, it's not fast, it's not cheap, and its ability is only useful in niche situations.
Yeah.
And I'd almost rather just take Behemoth and copy a Canceller anyway.
Yeah. Or get the next one.
Yeah. Speaking of the next one, Shahulud is, I think we can agree, much better because it's cheaper, has the same ability, is faster, and yet it's 2L, 2S, 2S, 2S.
Yeah, better cannon.
Yeah.
And as Sea Serpent go, this is one of the
better ones. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing really...
almost as good as Ophidius.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and not too far off from Mistwalker. I mean, a different kind of usage case, but somewhat similar overall.
Yeah.
The next one is what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just trying to segue onto Queen Teresa Pavone.
Yeah. Yep, she's a mercenary crew, super rare, 6 points. She's got Expatriate, Captain, and Cannoneer, so she's the same as Air Fuchs, and that's kind of too bad because it's a clone. It would have been more interesting to see like Captain Musketeer or anything else, really. Captain Shipwright.
You should have done something more interesting than just clone something else from the set.
Yeah, she has cool artwork, I guess. But maybe like Captain Shipwright, because then it'd be perfect for a sub or any ship, really.
Or, I mean, I'm almost wondering if we can do like a community project someday to reprint and sort of modify or correct, if you will, some of the clone crew to make them much more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
And maybe
if anybody out there wants to help with us. Yeah. So next up is Nemo's plans. This treasure can be removed from the ship unless she sinks. Any other treasure, unique treasure aboard the ship that would be removed from the game after it is used remains aboard. It can be reused or continues to function. That's. I mean, I'll let you explain some of the uses you found for this.
Yeah, it's just crazy. We alluded to it earlier with Screw Engine and some of the other ones. Can be really crazy. Even basic ones like dry powder that give two shoot actions can be pretty powerful, especially like reverse captain, stuff like that. One of the classic uses would be Runes of Thor, which changes your die result to a 6 automatically. So you can just wreak havoc with that.
Or Runes of Loki.
Exactly. Change all your opponent's rolls to 1 and just keep going and going. And Nemo's Plans is great to use farming Mysterious Islands because you could use Runes of Thor to always get the positive effect and stuff like that. So power cannons, like we just talked about, would be another good one. Yeah, the options are pretty much endless. So it's very easy to abuse with the right stuff, but you still got to find at least 2 UTs.
You have to find and combine them. And that's the hard thing.
And then this set kind of, it makes it easier because you could bring in Nemo's Plans with one of the game-breaking Mysterious Islands. So,
yeah.
And then I'll talk about, and Nemo's Plans kind of reminds me of Bad Maps and a couple other ones we've talked about, like the Gold Capture Crew. There are certain game pieces in the set review that could get their own 10-minute segment in a later episode. So we'll probably talk about it later too. Kind of like Bad Maps and the possibilities, ensuing from that.
That's a good idea.
I'll move on to the special editions. These were box ships, which are pretty rare. I think it's the most rare boxed SE special edition boxes were rare for this set. And they're tough to get nowadays. But
I was lucky that I got like a full set of them in an eBay lot at some point. They were all constructed, and one of them was in pretty rough shape, but I have them all nevertheless.
Nice, that's awesome. I only have the second one, but we'll talk about it soon. The first one is the Tasmanian Devil, which is a 4-master, 14 points, 2 cargo, SL speed. All the cannons are 4L, Mercenary keyword, and +1 to cannon rolls against any ship, so world hater. I know this one has bad cargo, and the cannons, even with the boost, are 3L. I think it's one of the more underrated ships that never really gets talked about, so I'll talk about it some here. The Spanish hired this ship in CG1 using the privateer rules, and I found it to be quite effective because all you really need is a captain helmsman for the 2 cargo, and then you've got SLS speed with all 3L guns, which is pretty good for a gunship. You can't really add much other crew, and it's pretty pricey, but I still think it's one of the more underrated fast gunships, and not many 4-masters have SL speed, especially the square rig ships. So I think the Tasmanian Devil is pretty cool, and I've used her effectively so far.
Yeah, I was doing some research as part of my Hades Realm review. If you exclude sea monsters or sea creatures in general, really, there are no 4-masters that move faster than LS. So this being among the fastest of them, despite being kind of expensive and not being able to repair and all that, despite all that's weak about her, she is at least tied for being one of the fastest of her kind. Yeah. And I think the art is pretty interesting because it looks like rusty water is leaked down her sails or something. Yeah. Anyway, next up is Revolution, which is not a revolutionary ship at all. Revolution is a really boring ship. She looks good, but 13 points, 3 cargo, L move, 3S, 3L, 3L, 3S, and then Mercenary and reroll. No, this is actually kind of bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad for what the Mercs got in the set. They need all the help they can get with gunships, like bigger ones, but yeah, it's not anything special either. The reroll is probably the biggest character trait, but unless you're using Count Gustav, there's not much to reroll. I like this ship. I got it as a gift from member Trox for my Economy Edition Battle Report. So this is the only SE ship from these 4 that I own, but it's okay. Specifically for the Mercs, it's solid, but obviously going outside that faction, it totally doesn't work so well. The next one is kind of funky. The Empty Sky is a 4-master with 12 points. It's a pirate ship, 5 cargo, S move. Cannons are 3S, 2S, 2S, 3S, and then crew of any nationality may use their abilities on this ship, which is nice, but the pirates already have the best named crew options in the game. I haven't really looked at this ship all that much. I'm not totally sure what I would do with her. Probably just kind of a slow hybrid, like Captain Helmsman, but speed, it just really, really holds it back. So I will say the artwork is exceptional. So.
Yeah, she's got these deep blue sails and a golden hull, which is pretty good looking.
Yeah.
I think that this is actually a pretty decent ship. I mean, I think that's an underrated ability. She's reasonably priced, got a lot of hold space, decent guns. I agree, though, that because movement speed is so important, and she has terrible movement speed, that she is held back pretty seriously by that. I'm almost wondering if you could just go ham on making her a really good slow ship.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's still only so much you can do because she's only 12 points.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad, but it's not too good either.
Yeah. It's like perfect for new players, though. Funny enough, because now no new players can get it. Yeah. Anyway, after that is Independence, which is in some ways better than USS Egan as well, which we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So for 14 points, you get an American Four Master, which has 3 cargo, L move, 2L, 2S, 2S, 2L. +1 to boarding rules or +2 against submarines. The ability's bad, but it basically has the firepower of the USS Egan for cheaper.
Yeah, 1 point cheaper. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a little bit more general purpose than the Egan. Kind of like what we talked about earlier with the Espadon versus the Rocaire Noir. It's a solid gunship. I like this one. I definitely I want this one more badly than the Empty Sky. It's a better purpose-built gunship. It's a decent gunship, but like we've already talked about with the Egan, it's kind of forgettable when you think about the Franklin and other Four Masters, but it's still a pretty solid ship overall. Next, okay, so now we're into the promo or limited edition ships, numbering in the 200s.
A lot of these are bad.
Yeah, so we'll probably be able to go quick. It's like the tournament packs, so you would get, you could also get them as part of a big booster box with, I think, 3 per, pack or whatever. So the first one is the Corcoran. It's a Mercenary blockade runner, 2 masts, 10 points, 3 cargo, SL move. Cannons are 4S4S, Mercenary keyword. The ship can shoot a submarines with an Esper. Getting pretty sick of that. It's slightly better than HMS Challenger because it's faster, but it's still not very good overall, really.
Yeah, I mean, as far as sub hunters go, this one is. I mean, there were like 10-point ships from the set that were better armed and like almost as fast. This is just a really bad ship.
Yeah, I think it weirdly made my top 5, or maybe it was an honorable mention in the top 5 Mercenary Gold Runners ranking because they don't have anything else. So for what it is, it's kind of similar to the Devil Ray in a way.
Yeah. I do have to be leaving soon, so we probably are going to have to try to roll through as many of these as fast as possible. Munchausen is next. It's, I guess that's a German name. 11 points, 4 cargo, L move, 3 L4L guns. This is a 2-masted blockade runner. Well, I guess you already knew that. With re-roll, I guess it's supposed to kind of be like a hybrid, but it's too slow, and the mercenaries have no use for hybrids.
Yeah, it's not that good. The reroll, they don't really have a lot of use for that either, just like we said with the Revolution. So it's not terrible, but it's not very good either. So the next one is Baduwara. It's another 2-master blockade runner, 12 points, 3 cargo, L move, 3S cannons, mercenary, and then it's got reverse captain. So
I would say real weird, but maybe smoke pot specialist would go well.
Yeah, this is the worst of the 3 we've seen so far. So this is pretty bad.
Yeah. After Batuwara comes Bragi. There's a lot of really weird pronunciation in these. 9 points, 2 cargo SS move, 3 L3S guns, +1 boarding rolls or 2 against submarines. This one's pirate, not mercenary, but it's not good because the pirates have much better options for ships at this cost.
Yeah, it's super boring. It's one of those boring ships.
El Ballista is better than this.
What is?
El Ballista?
Way better. Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
better
Better everything.
rolls, more durable.
Yeah, everything's better there.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Bragi is a bad version of
yeah,
Bill
yeah,
Ballista.
yeah.
I,
Next one is HMS Globe, obviously in English. Two-mast blockade runner, 9 points, 2 cargo, L move. Cannons are 3S3L, and same abilities. So +1
yeah,
boardings, 2
it,
against subs.
it's
Um,
basically the same ship but slower.
yeah, it's even worse. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
terrible. Yeah,
wow.
it's bad.
Well done, WizKids. And if you want something that's arguably just as bad, USS Mohican is basically the same ship again, but it gets SS move and 2 S3S guns. Still not worth it.
Yeah, no, this one isn't good either. Yeah, and then there's a better version of the Mohican from DJC, so I'd rather just use that anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, next one is Le Renard qui Vole, which I wrote a review on. It's a galley without the keyword, but I would just house rule that. 7 points, 2 cargo, SSS move, which is really good, 2S cannon, and it can shoot at submerged ships with an SVR. So this is the only ship I would use Henry Diop on. Perfect combo there with maybe a captain and a firepower specialist. So kind of like a niche sub hunter with a cool little crew option, but other than that, it's not great. You could do a flotilla too, that'd be a solid option.
Yeah. I think you're right. A sort of niche sub hunter it's kind of something remarkably good. It's a remarkably good use for a ship that's otherwise going to be forgotten because it's not a very good ability, but you did figure out a way to make it really pretty good. Deep Water is next. Another one-masted galley. This is a pirate ship. 7 points, 2 cargo, L move, 4S gun. Can shoot at submerged ships. It's just a worse version of Renard Kivol.
Yeah, way, way, way worse. Like,
yeah,
they could have made it 3 points.
Yeah.
Oh well, and that doesn't. Yeah, this is why it makes no sense. It's so much worse, and the same cost. So it's just ridiculous. And usually the pirates got stuff for cheaper, so it doesn't even make any sense there either. It's like an error. The next one is La Guimar, which is a one-masted galley for Spain. 8 points, 3 cargo, SS move, 3S cannon, and shoot at submerged ships with an S. I'd rather have the Renard. This one has a little decent cargo, but still not a very good ship overall.
Yeah, this is still worse than Renard. Les Jongleurs, which is... Okay, now we're getting into something different, but something that's also terrible. It's an 11-point masted mercenary galley, 3 cargo, L move, 4S gun, and it's a home island raider.
Yeah, tough to use.
A mercenary home island raider that's 1 mast and slow.
Yeah.
This is why. What is the point of this ship?
I don't know. The only thing I can think of is like transferring the stolen gold to like a 10-master with dories, but that would be time consuming, so I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be a waste. And you can do that much better with other ships anyway.
Yeah, or just somehow get Grim the Savage on that 10-master or something, but anyway. Yeah. The Hanno is another mercenary 1-master, 8 points, 2 cargo, L move, 2S cannon, mercenary, and +1 to boarding rolls. So I'd say this one's even worse. Just a basic tiny gun ship and a waste of points. So.
Yeah. After that, it's Phlegias, which reminds me of phlegm because of how it's spelled. 11 points, 2 cargo, SS move, 3L gun. Can't be shot at by ships with an SFR. We've already talked about this ability on one-masted ships, except this is even more expensive than anything else we've seen it on in this set. This is a terrible, terrible ship.
Yep. Yeah, this is bad. This is one of the worst here, actually. Yep. Nothing good, really. I mean, the ability's good, but who cares?
Yeah.
Next
but
one
not on that ship.
Yeah, exactly. HMN Run Barrel. Flavor text says it's supposed to stand for Her Majesty's Nightmares. I never saw that before, but that's kind of funny. This is a pirate turtle ship with 1 mast, 8 points, 2 cargo, L move, 3L cannon, and once again, +1 to boards, 2 against subs. So nothing good.
Yeah, I like turtle ships, but HMN Run Barrel is not among the best.
Nope.
Nor is HMS Obsidian Sun, which has the same ability. It's 1 point more. It's 9 points, 2 cargo, L move, 2L gun. Okay, so something really strange here with HMS Obsidian Sun. It's got the English flag, but the mercenary keyword and the mercenary flag on the back. There must be a misprint here.
Yeah, we went over this with Wolf, and it's kind of like I don't know, something carried over from the previous stuff where there was a mistake, definitely. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess it's probably a mercenary, and then the English flag was wait, no. Why does it say HMS? Because it doesn't say it on the card.
Yeah, I'll change that right now. Yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, so Obsidian Sun, I basically think we can agree, is a mercenary ship that was accidentally printed with an English flag on the deck plate.
I guess I'll have to. Before I change it, I'm gonna have to check with the rules because Wolf answered it, but I can't remember now. It's that confusing.
Yeah, I highly doubt it was meant to be an English ship. I think that was a mistake.
Yeah, it's so confusing that it doesn't make sense. And it's not good. So the next one is the Sea Storm, which is funny. Well, it's not that bad. Well, actually, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Mercenary Turtle Ship, 12 points, 2 cargo, SS move, 2 S cannon. And then it has the crew massacre, so if the ship succeeds at a boarding party, eliminate all the other ship's crew.
But it will never succeed at a boarding party because it's a one-masted ship for 12 points with an overpriced ability.
Exactly. I was thinking of the next one, which I think is funny and also slightly better in a weird way. But
Seven Brothers is another mercenary turtle ship, 12 points, 4 cargo, S move, 2 S gun. May take as much treasure from the other ship as she wants. Yeah, I guess you could say she's better, but she's still utterly terrible.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's not much you can do there. So, good cargo and good gun, but weird combos.
Yeah.
I remember there's a review that says, like, Seven Brothers is like a dopey ship or something. I don't know. There's some funny review about it. So, anyway.
Yeah.
The next one is pretty good. The Divine Dragon, one-masted Merc turtle ship, 7 points, 2 cargo, L move, 2 S cannon. And on the ship, turn the ship as pinned, eliminate 1 crew and 1 mast from the ram ship. So this one's a pretty good assassin ship. Maybe not the best, but one of the better ones.
Yeah, this is like literally the only usable... Okay, no. This is like one of the 2 theoretically usable ships in the entire Mysterious Islands tournament set. I've actually personally used this ship to great effect against ships that resist the first shot they take when they have all their masts.
Yeah.
Because you can knock down the first mast and then negate their ability. Yep. And with the basic Captain Helmsman, you can knock down up to 3 masts in a single turn, which is really good for 12 points.
Yeah.
It's kind of a perfect little suicide ship. You can use it to soften up something really big, or you can use it to devastate something kind of smaller and cheaper. It's highly viable no matter the game size, I think. After that is Silver Current, which is another atrocious ship. 9 points, 2 cargo, SS move, 3 S gun, +1 to boarding rolls, or +2 against a submarine. That's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's a lot like the other ones.
Yeah, Silver Current is garbage.
Yeah. Now we're going to get into the Message in a Bottle pack, which was really good. You could get it by sending in those stories like we talked about earlier. Number 300 is USS Mercury, the submarine, not the wind catcher. It's 3 segments, 16 points, 4 cargo, L move. All 3 cannons are 2L, and it ignores the first hit. It takes each turn as long as it have all of her hull pieces. So, an amazing submarine. Kind of ironic that the Americans arguably got the best submarine, even though they're not the Mercs. But yeah, this one's great, and one of their very good 3-masted gunships in a way. Kind of.
Yeah, this is one of the most expensive 3-masted ships ever released. I think there are like 3 ships more expensive.
Maybe
I might have that wrong. Like three masters more expensive.
Yeah. I'm thinking. I don't know. Anyway.
But yeah, this is really tough to kill because it has a good defensive ability. It's a submarine. It's well armed. And if you wanted to guarantee yourself safety, because you can't tow submarines, you can throw Eternal aboard and get it back pretty quickly.
Yeah, that, and you could put the American Chancellor aboard too.
Yeah, that too.
Defensive. Yep.
Yeah, USS Mercury is a really nasty ship to have to face.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't been able to use it yet, actually, because my play group is so averse to me using submarines.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is kind of sad.
Yeah,
but,
makes sense though. The slips. Oh, sorry, that's yours. Sorry.
Slipstream is Slipstream is the other submarine from that pack. 12 points, 3 cargo, L move, 2/3 outguns. Linked to Thane Heartless, who is a mercenary. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Crew of any nationality may use their abilities on this ship. I, again, think that that's an underrated ability and is a really neat one. In this case, you can combine it with, say, well, actually, there's a lot of things you can do with Slipstream, and we can only scratch the surface because we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But
I might.
Rise of the Fiends Griffin and Hermione Gold.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm thinking I might try to start making a list of stuff we could talk about in more detail later.
Good
I'm
idea.
using the Slipstream with a Marine, Olaf Lindstrom, the Viking Marine in the CG3. You could put 2 Marines on this thing, which is pretty crazy, for submerged Marine attacks. I'd like it for treasure, too.
For a helmsman, I think.
Yeah, and I like it for treasure, too, because there's some crew that allows you to drop off gold with nests or something, I think. I made a fleet with it, and I'll try to look that up again, and maybe put it in the description of the podcast. And yeah, the link to Thane Heartless is not great, but Thane Heartless is a expatriate merc reroller for 5 points. I don't know why he's not 4, but so you're paying a big premium for reroll, but it is a really good ability. So to be fair, you could use it. I mean, the Cursed don't have like rerolling crew, so you could use them with like Davy Jones or like a Cursed crew. You could use them on I don't know, like some of the minor faction ships, which is a solid idea. So he's got good utility, but you will be paying a 2-point premium just to use him.
Yeah. I avoid using him whenever possible because he's so expensive and he comes with expatriate. But I do admit he has some use. Moving on to Abandoned Crew, it's basically a card full of gold tokens that look normal on one side and have crew on the other. And I think you came up with a really strange strategy involving the use of these and like crew capturing abilities.
Yeah, I think like multiple strange strategies. This is exactly one of those pieces we could talk about for at least 10 minutes, probably.
Yeah, good idea to write that down.
Yeah, I think in the old rules thread, there was like a back and forth between Wolf and I, and it got really extreme. There's some like mega posts on this piece alone. It's weird. And the pirate code entry is big too, of course. So I only have the Crimson Coast version, but the cool part about
they're the same.
Yeah, no, I know. But the crew are different.
I might have a spare copy of this version of Abandoned Crew.
Nice.
Because I think it's like when I got that big pack that came with a bunch of Mysterious Island stuff, there were like 2 copies of that, or maybe there's 1, and then I was missing like a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's weird.
That's cool. I'm just thinking that this version would be hilarious to use because your opponent could discover the Mercenary shipwright at a wild island and be totally freaked out. Oh my god.
Just pick it up and
totally throw them for a loop. Maybe on the same island with like some 0 coins from Fire and Steel. And then they'd probably be so confused. Alright, so the next one is part of the Mysterious Island.
Before we get into that real quick.
What?
Before we get into that, a rule for the future of the podcast I think we need to enforce is anytime we find a crew with a really weird face, we need to try to make the sound that they look like they're making.
Oh, yeah.
Like with Brent Rice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was rough.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah,
it was John Ward. I remember that.
Oh, yeah, it was John Ward.
Yeah, Xerxes there for that,
yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. As you were saying, though, about the convention pack.
Yeah, the Mysterious Island convention pack was kind of deceptive, maybe. I don't know if they meant to produce it in such ludicrous quantities, but basically it's extremely easy to acquire. They're literally, I don't know if they still have them, but Troll and Toad actually has them for like 35 cents. So I bought like a bunch of them to give away to new players. The pack overall is kind of lackluster, but
it's not good.
Yeah, the cool thing is it's unique.
It's gimmicky.
Yeah, Cursed submarines are a strange novelty. And the first one is the locker. Submarine keyword, of course, is a curse 3-segment sub, 13 points. L move. The cannons are 3S, 4S, 4S. And then if the ship succeeds the boarding party, she may eliminate all the other ship's crew. It's better though. Oh, and there's a link to Edward Lowe, who is an 8-point possessing crew, just like the original Papa Doc, which we can agree is a pretty terrible ability.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The thing about the link though is you can roll for that and try to get a 6 while still submerged, which is kind of valuable. It's not going to work usually, but it's a decent link. As submarines go, the locker is very basic and not very exciting. But since the curse don't have any other subs other than the next one, it's kind of still a cool piece for them to get.
Yeah, I did use the locker in my first game returning to being interested, and it's not good. It's expensive, it's slow, it's terribly armed, its ability isn't really relevant, and its linked crew isn't very good.
Yeah.
It's a good looking ship, but I have not found a use for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might be able to down the road if I try looking at international crew setups, but yeah, I'm not going to do any of that for the moment.
Yeah.
The other submarine is kind of equally as bad because Pyre is smaller. It's a 2-segment submarine, but it's even more expensive. It's 14 points. It has 3 cargo, L base move, 2 3S guns, and the ghost ship keyword, which I think we agreed at some point doesn't even have any utility on a submarine anyway.
Yeah, not really. I mean, you can go through islands, but you usually don't need to. So.
And it's not fast enough to. That's the
thing. Yeah.
It only moves L. Even if you throw a helmsman aboard, it's ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not very good. I don't know. I think I put Papa Doc on the Pyre and did like a double possession and strategy. I don't know. It's just
I think I've got something like that going on that recent fleet that I did that wasn't very good, but was just kind of a gimmick.
Yeah.
Mediocre
Pyre's
gimmick.
not too good, but I mean, it does fill a.
There's got to be something that can be done with it.
Yeah, like on submerged ramming. I mean, ROTF Phantasma has Fear and SAT and Eternal, so it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Then you could move twice with a helmsman, and then you'd have Fear, which you can use with submerged, just like the possessing ability, and then you have Eternal if you get canceled, because Eternal would kick in more often with a small ship like this. But I mean, the uses are still few and far between. So
yeah.
So yeah, Edward Lowe. We already talked about him. He was a real life pirate, so it's kind of nice. It's kind of a random historical reference, but he was a pretty bad person, to say the least. And the flavor text alludes to that. And the last piece in the set is Gem of Hades, which is the silliest piece in the little pack here. It's just a UT that says the ship and all crew on her become part of the Curse faction, similar to the Red Skull, or the same. And
yeah, it's the same as the Red Skull.
Yeah, which we already talked about in the other set review.
Yeah, it's not all that useful unless you do that finding cursed bonuses kind of thing. But that's kind of it's a niche strategy, and Gem of Hades is otherwise just pointless.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And that's us at the end of the Mysterious Islands set list.
Yeah, great. All right, yeah, in the comments on the forum or whatever, let us know if you like the set or not, whether you agree with us on the pieces and whatnot, and yeah, we'll be back with another episode, but this was episode number 16 of the Pirate CSG podcast, and this is Next Gen Ben and God Mason signing off for now.